Hey, this shit is so crazy because first of all, we're back week 2. Everybody knew that it would be going down like this. Kennedy's here. Circa Flynn is here. Uh, Circa, like, good evidence for how we are really getting famous and really blowing up is that people who don't know that we know the show talk to us about the show. Like, you told me a story about like one of your friends recommending. I mean, you are here like semi-anonymously, and people are recommending this show that you were like the second ever guest on. Like, you, like you are like literally an OG member of the show, really.
That's
And
too good.
I just find that hilarious. How are you?
Yeah, it's somebody that I play video games with, and they have like no clue what I sound like.
Ooh.
And all they know is that like when I'm not playing video games and bitching about school, I just like left-wing stuff. So they found this podcast, and they thought, hey, she might like this.
If I was in a random, like, I haven't been on the PS4 gamer chip, like, I'm a person who's very slow on new console generations. So, like, if a new system comes out, I don't play it for like a year and a half because there's no good games on it. But if I was in like a PlayStation or Xbox chat and somebody recommended my own show to me, I'd probably pass out. I'd be like, hell yeah.
Well,
I think it's great.
They're not even the first person to do that. My partner has suggested the show to me and sent me screenshots of y'all's tweets because they wanted to see what I had to say about it. But
I've definitely had friends circle the tweets back around to me a few times where I'll get a text. Hey, I saw your tweet on some Facebook page called like Stalin's secret shoe stash or something, you know, like Rosa Luxemburg's beauty salon, you know, some page name like that, and they'll be like, oh wait, I saw your tweet, and it's like a JPEG screenshot of a Not Safe For Wonks tweet from like 6 months ago, and I'm like, listen, interesting.
I've had that happen to me a lot, actually. People will say, like, look at this, and I'll be like, I know the person that tweeted that. I'm extra impressed when I get that from a black person. That means that the tweet has like a really good fucking cool tweet. And then when I get a solid tweet from like somebody in West Atlanta, I'm like, okay, this is really broken through the outside of the left wing bubble. Yeah, which I always like. Listen, what have y'all been doing? Because like last week was really about the guests. We had so many guests here and in that like we kind of took a little back seat. What have y'all been doing the last few months? Maybe since the Capitol riots or whatever, during the hiatus.
Well, first of all, something I haven't had a chance to talk about enough on this show yet is that the Capitol riot happened on my birthday. I'm still not over that.
Well, we had that bombing. That bombing happened. The Iran bombing under Trump was January 2nd, which is my birthday.
That's right.
So like it was my birthday and it was a new year, and life was like going pretty good for me. And then World War III happened, and then COVID happened, and just 2020, like, throw it in a bin, forget about it. But what did you do? What were you up to this quarantine season?
I've just been trying to work on the media, and like I've got my fingers crossed to get vaccinated soon.
Have you gotten any of them yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Because I kind of want Moderna in particular, and they haven't really had that much of that to go around lately here.
What's sticking out to you about the Moderna vaccine?
I don't want Pfizer because Pfizer was made by Sith Lords. We know this.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I took the Sith vaccine. My breathing, you know, it sounds a little like Darth Vader, but I'm making it. I'm very happy to have gotten all that out of the way.
And then Johnson and Johnson, I mean, both of the original Johnson brothers were vampires.
That's true.
So ultimately, I've just decided to trust Bill Gates here.
I'm perfectly valid. Circa, which dark overlord of capitalism are you trusting with your physical safety?
Well, I got my microchip from Pfizer, but I didn't have much of a say in that one.
I mean, I suppose you could have. It was impossible for you to just have a anti-vax freak out and insist on the Johnson and Johnson vaccine or whatever.
Well, I was going to, but then I walked into the doctor's office and this lady was already having a bitch fit. And you know how I feel about like copying people. So I didn't want to look like a poser. But
listen, like the thing about all of this, like Moderna, J&J, Pfizer, we can all say that like there's a reasonable expectation that one of these companies would have some kind of fuck up, right? Like it's not like Johnson and Johnson is a uniquely malicious mega corporation here.
Right.
Like just the wheel of irresponsibility just happened to land on them. They're not like
it's
superior.
I think that's one of the things that some people who are overly conspiratorial, regardless of whether they're on the right or the left, get wrong, is they start thinking about like certain individuals or certain groups as the absolute, like these are the bad ones doing the bad stuff. Everything else is whatever. And like, no, it tends to be more like a lot of the bad guys are sort of fighting amongst each other, and you know they aren't always in agreement. And like you say, it's just sort of this wheel that's spinning around. And right now, Johnson and Johnson, really bad, super bad, extra bad right now.
That's correct. That's a very fair statement. But it's just impossible to say where it would have gone. All right, everyone loves your takes. Listen, Kennedy, they're not up for adoption. Kennedy, are you up for adoption?
Uh-oh. I mean, I have an anarchist view of the family structure.
That's true.
I'm gonna start getting into some nerd shit. No, let's not do this.
Actually, no. Actually, I do want to talk about your takes on that because we always allude to it, but we never like really talk about it. And also, we're welcoming viewers from Xavier Zeta, and Xavier is a person who their life kind of parallels yours in that you were like a young person going through friction with their parents and trying to get like some freedom and that kind of stuff. So yeah, talk about ideal views of family relations, because you always start to have that take all the time on our show, and we say, oh, we better wait. Oh, Kennedy's gonna give their hottest take. Well, just get it now. Like, let's just talk about.
All right, fine. It's Kennedy hot take time. So I think that it's crucial that we start thinking about family in a more malleable sense. That like chosen family and communities should kind of outweigh this blood stuff, which is really only mostly like critical if you're like trying to decide who you're gonna marry and if you're too genetically close to someone, in my opinion. Well, now we gotta welcome. We can't really get into super hot take territory because now we gotta welcome some folks.
We can welcome them and just dump them right into the fire. Watch how we do this. First of all, Xavier Zeta, you're welcoming, your viewers from Twitch. They're here hanging out with us. We were sitting here talking about Kennedy is, a little older than you, and just talking about family should be a looser structure. And that really, like, as people get older, they should be leaning on more informal structures as opposed to their blood relatives who may have a lot of coercive control over them or whatever. How do you feel about that as a general theory?
I mean, I personally think, family is a chosen kind of thing for me, at least. you know, the whole idea that blood runs thicker than water is just like not true in most circumstances. Because I've seen people that have created a great community that is supportive mutually to each other. And I think, versus all of my friends that I hear who've had toxic families and families that have used them,
Yeah.
Kenzo Shibata, our superstar, our rock star, when we said we wanted to really our plan was that week one, we wanted it to be like a nightclub, and it's just the coolest people that we knew were all going to be there. For this one, we were thinking like it's a family dinner, so it's just people who we know, like even if the first show goes bizarre or it's great or it's no matter what, they're always like having your back. And so we all looked around and we said Kenzo, and then we all said Kenzo. So Kenzo, what's up? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited. I was really looking forward to this ever since you invited me on, Brandyn. Like excited about the relaunch. Everything's been great.
We just love your show. You've always done a good job of kind of in the same way this show is like bringing people across like tendencies or whatever to just talk about both like practical things that we can do to like get through the day, the week, the month, and also just like to keep our sanity, to be our best selves, to be somebody that's actually materially useful to the people in the world and culture and stuff like that. And so like in that sense, our shows are kind of similar shows.
Yeah, absolutely.
And y'all do yours out of Chicago, and we do ours out of Atlanta/Albuquerque. Is Albuquerque a real place? I suppose
it's not. I don't live in it.
Whenever
I've never heard of anyone from Albuquerque. Is that
Albuquerque?
how you say it?
It's like really. There are two things that you think of for a Southerner. If like I was on a street corner in the South and Kennedy was here, and we say, I brought someone in from Albuquerque. It's a strange, mystical place. Like you don't know anything about where it is, what are they like? I hear they're cool. Like New Mexico is very much like an odd mystery, I find that just hilarious. And yeah.
It is kind of a mysterious place, and that's what a lot of us who live here like about it. There's a lot of beautiful public art, a lot of really unique culture.
How's rent there?
Huh?
How's rent there?
Oh, it's super cheap. That's
all right, just wondering for myself.
Well, Xavier,
how do you think I'm
already
able
living
to
at
afford? Listen, folks, I'm broke. Okay,
yes.
How do you think I can afford to have like an office to do stuff in? It's because rent is cheap.
Xavier, you live in Atlanta. The rent is cheap. You need a job. And by the way, you are for hire, aren't you?
Yes. You need if you need video editing, if you need any way to, I'm good with OBS. I can talk you through fixing your OBS. If you need any of that stuff, I got you. Okay.
We love
Thank
it.
you.
Help out a Zoomer who needs to
Get
the
away
heck out of their
the
house they're living in. Live
Not that, like,
with
you're,
reasonable people.
Yeah. Kenzo, talk about your what's your family like background? What's your relationship with your family like, and how do they influence your political development?
Let's see. That's a good question. So I got two sisters, but they're from my mom's first marriage. So
Are they like older than you?
They're much older than me. They're in their 50s. They have one of them has a grandchild. And an interesting complication is they're a different race than me because of that. We're both half Jewish,
Right.
me and my sisters. But I'm half Japanese and they're not. So I've had a very interesting relationship when I talk about siblings because they are so much older than me, and like their life experiences are very different than mine, and they're conservatives too now. they joined the military. One of my sisters joined the military at a young age. The other one married a military guy right out of high school. And so that has been their life, and that's been their kind of bootstrap story, is that like it was the military that helped them get trained in engineering and, got them, good kind of upper middle class jobs coming, from a poor background. So it's interesting because they took that route. And then I took the route of becoming a public school teacher. And, both myself and my sisters, we all were able to climb into the middle class, basically, with these jobs. These are public service jobs, but like there's such wildly different types of public service that our politics were just, went in just almost complete opposite ways. We get along. We just don't talk about politics.
Do you get along outside of politics? I know, like that seems like a weird question to ask now, but like I had, we put up those shirts for sale, and one of my friends, was a libertarian from like the Ron Paul era, and I haven't talked to him for like 10 years, and he apparently found me and found that I had a left-wing talk show and bought a shirt. So either there was a wide ideological reformation, which I doubt, or they were just wanted to like show some support to somebody who they bantered with and had a good relationship with. So what's your like relationship with your sisters?
We talk about, the thing is, we talk about just how your kids doing, how's your family doing, like, and the politics. I get baited sometimes, and I know I do. I just know to not take the bait. And when I was younger, I would take it. And then I just realized like it doesn't, the whole point of like getting together with family is it's supposed to be fun. And if it's not fun, then like, that's why people have chosen families. Because, if you can't get any kind of connection with your family just because you have blood connection, I don't think you should feel obligated, to consider them family or have them be close in your life, toxic people. Like one of the interesting things is, I learned through therapy is, if there are people in your life that you don't need in your life, no matter who they are, you don't have any obligation to them. Thus, they're a kid or something like that. But, as far as like, your blood family, you choose those relationships that are healthy and good for you. And, with my family, we have, boundaries basically. And I enforce certain boundaries around talking about politics. And then, we're able to get along. But if that weren't possible, then, I wouldn't necessarily, want to be around.
I like that. That's very good and very healthy. Circa, boy, what a question. I know what your life is like. I don't even know how to. Is there a sane way for you to have conversations about boundaries and family? And what's the speech? I don't even know how to give that speech if I'm you. You give that speech. I bet you know it.
Well, my immediate family, like my parents, my siblings,
Yeah.
it's great. We just don't talk about it. But I'm from the deep South, where your aunties, your uncles, the night cousin you haven't spoken to in like 15 years, they're still a part of your family, so you have to figure out a way to get along with them. And I have not done that. And it's entirely
Everybody in the family doesn't need to be gotten along with.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For real.
But
especially like I've seen your family.
With the way you grow up, with like you're moving all the time and you don't have any time to sit down and make any friends or really anything, you kind of just make do with what you've got. And with me being the oldest of a lot of fucking kids, you gotta keep the peace for their sake, because these kind of nut jobs have no problem going after the small kids to try to get to them. So it's just a balancing act. Like with that coworker nobody likes.
It's very true. Listen, this
I
was
always, in
go
my
ahead.
family, like, I would kind of grow up hearing stories about like certain family members that were sort of like the black sheep of the family,
Black
the outcasts, and these people that you hardly met. And when you're really young, you're kind of taught, or at least I was in my family, that like, um, those people, they should have tried harder to get along with their family. But then you hear all the family stories over the years, and I'm not saying I necessarily get along with like all of my outcast aunts and uncles. Like some of us don't get along either, but I relate now as I'm older to like why they are that way, because I'm kind of the same way, where like I just don't really have much in common ideologically with a lot of these people. I will say what is funny though is that I find myself in this position in my family now where the family members that do still talk to me, some of them particularly won't admit it, but talk to me wanting to have political conversations. Does anyone
Right.
else here get that? Where it's like I've got like an uncle who is always like, I don't like politics. I don't like politics. But every time we talk, he brings up, I don't bring it up.
Right.
I've had that for sure.
And there's a wide range of like reasons that happens. I don't have that as much like with black people, just because there's a little bit more of a monopolitic that's kind of happening there. And unless you're like really loudly, because there's so much agreement on like, if you just go to a typical black household meeting and go like, fuck the cops, everybody be like, yeah. But like it breaks down when you talk about, okay, so what should we do about this? Then it becomes, well, listen, we are gonna vote and be patient, or we're gonna demonstrate, or we're gonna write city hall. Like then your conversation breaks down. But it's not so much you're a liberal, and it's an oddball in the family that is like a novelty to talk to even experience it for you.
It's kind of funny. I just want to say for the record, it's not just black people, but a lot of poor people in general. You can walk into a room and say, fuck the cops, and they'll cheer. But then you ask some of them about it, and they're like, well, we should train the cops more.
Yeah, that definitely is more of a poor people monopolitic than a black people monopolitic. It's a little of both.
It's a little of both. It's a little of both. But I just want to say I've definitely run into that exact type of person more than once in my life, who if you just all talking, yeah, ACAB, but then again, what do we do about it? Oh, we train them. We give them more money.
And that's why, like, I cannot engage my family in the military, because when you have the anti-imperialist, anti-colonial mindset, it doesn't compute. You can't debate. Like, I'll say, we shouldn't be at blah, blah, blah. And they'll be like, well, if we're not there, who else is going to be there defending democracy? I'm like, well, no one really should. Like, they should be defending their own democracy if that's what they choose. And then, you hear about like, you're ungrateful. I'm like, no, I just think that our military causes more problems than solves problems. And then like, you're basically at that point I'm telling my family, like, your entire careers are shit. And that becomes very personal. So that's why I have to, like, it's either all or nothing. Either we talk about it and we're going to get nasty about it, or we're just going to like talk about, Costco's hamburgers.
I ran into this with my family and my grandparents, where we'd just talk about random bullshit, baseball, running, AutoCAD, fucking bullshit like that. And we would never. The gas prices were a big thing. It's like they can go on and on about the gas prices because they don't want to talk about real meaningful stuff.
Circa, do you want to talk about, this is another topic that just fits right into your talking about this with your relatives. How is that process?
I mean, the military has been how multiple generations of my family on both sides have provided for their families. We're all from a region of the country that has been poor since it came to be. So if you wanted better for yourself and for your children, you join the military. But the problem is, once all of these people had done their time in the military, they pretty much just got dumped on their ass back where they came from. But there's this kind of disconnect about how it was quote unquote so good during their service, and how they want their kids to follow in their footsteps so that they can have a taste of, I guess, the good life. That you bring that up, that there might be a problem with that, and it feels like a personal attack, not just on themselves but their entire families. And when my immediate family is directly involved, and that's kind of a fight that you have to learn to pick your battles with, because there's a lot of things that you can come to an agreement with, but the second you throw down the word imperialism, it all just goes to shit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I've had issues because I'm queer. I'm gay. You know, and talking to my immediate family are libs. Like they're libs. My sister is a leftist. Has been a leftist before I started my journey. But my extended family, when I came out, that was kind of a big issue for me, and they just won't talk about it, you know. And that kind of hurts, honestly. I mean, it hurts to be like, for them to just be like, oh, how's school? You know, for them to just feel like they're denying it in their heads. So, you know, that kind of hurts. And for my grandparents to say that we're on the Bible's side or some bullshit like that.
Oh, you love that? Yeah.
It's a great feeling as a queer person.
I wanted to touch on something Kenzo said a minute ago about, like, when you're talking to some of your family members. Just like there's a tendency in liberalism that they would rather have a known bad thing than the unknown. And I feel like that really plays into like this imperialism thing. It also plays into like whenever I'm talking to family about the border wall or something like that, or friends and that are more on the liberal side. And they'll be like, well, what do we do? Do we just let all these kids out of cages? What'll happen to them? And it's like, well, it's not ideal per se, but it's returning them to the same crummy but free life that they had before, as opposed to locking them up. But liberals can't handle that idea of the unknown. What's going to happen to these kids if we let them all out? Well, what's happening to them now is terrible.
Right.
Every single day that they spend in those cells is torture. But somehow it's worse to send them out into the unknown, where some of them might have very bad experiences, some of them might have okay experiences, whatever, etc. You know, like that seems to be like a fundamental roadblock that I run into when I'm talking to my liberal family about imperialism or a lot of issues. It's just like this, we can't have the unknown.
Yeah, my family, they're so like, you know, I have a handful of like conservatives because of basically military influence, but then like everyone else kind of comes from the Chicago, well, like kind of trained by the Chicago machine type politics, where it's like we support Democrats. And even though they, you know, a lot of my parents moved out of Chicago, a lot of people did, they still have that mentality. Like, so like when they go in the voting booth, they vote Democrat, but then their personal like stance on issues are all over the map. And it's like such a mixed consciousness. Like I wouldn't even consider the other people in my family liberals, but they vote Democrat and then have kind of reactionary random thoughts here and there. And then even random like progressive thoughts too. Like a lot of people in my family were big Bernie supporters who weren't straight up Republicans. And even the Republicans said they like Bernie better than they like, you know, Biden and all them. So that was interesting to see. Like my father's politics is all like, 'cause he's from Japan, his politics are almost like the Japanese Lib Dem Party, which is pretty like a neoliberal conservative type party. I remember having a conversation with him about the death penalty. And, my father supports the death penalty. And of course, in Japan, they have almost no violent crime that gets to the point where someone would be executed. But in this country, we have this awful criminal justice system. And, my dad and I had this conversation. He said, well, the problem here isn't the death penalty. It's the criminal justice system. We need to fix that. And I'm like, you're so close. Like, yeah, the criminal justice system is jacked up. That's why we can't execute anybody. But yeah, like we see the same root causes, I think, but like the solutions are reactionary on their part.
Yeah.
Right. But I think part of that is just like, you have to, first of all, some people have assumptions that they don't even know that they've been programmed with. And like some people, like, you just literally need to go argue with them. Like I was talking to somebody, I was doing a canvas with Rogelio Arcilla. He was doing a neighborhood cleanup. And for people who don't know, he's running for city council in West Atlanta. And we were literally like talking, like doing a cleanup with an older Black woman. And we were talking about just criminal justice. And we were talking about prison labor. Because like prison labor, I think, and just prison justice in general is like surprisingly an issue that I think you can get a lot of liberal support on. Like if you just describe what the conditions are, then just anybody with a conscience will just be like, these are conditions that are horrible. And you can just be like, here's what's going on. And literally everybody who knows anything about like the Department of Corrections is incredibly understaffed. It's incredibly underfunded. It's incredibly based on abuse. Like that is not a sustainable system that's going on in there, just period. And when you show it to somebody, they're like, that's terrible. That's awful. And like we've talked about earlier, the issue is just like, can we get everybody on board with the solutions? But anyway, we were talking to this woman and she was just talking about how like prison labor, it's okay. I mean, they committed a crime, so they should be put to work. It'll teach them like a work ethic. And I'm like, listen, they're not being paid. Like who's making money off of, and all of these people understand economic exploitation. If there's a prisoner who's there working and not making money, working to make what? Who's selling it? Who's buying it? Who's making it? And suddenly these people who they're thinking in terms of like criminal justice, crime, punishment, strict upbringing, what you need to do to survive. They suddenly, something clicks and they're like, wait, that's being exploited to make this other person money. Think of like when you're having conversations, like think of just ways to reframe the ways that we've been just taught to treat each other, and reframe it in ways that relate to what people are going through now. And find, I don't think I changed that person's mind right off the bat or anything like that, but they definitely were like, I've never even considered this entire aspect of prison justice and slave labor, which is basically what the shit is. Go out there and go fight a fire. And people always love to have like moral value to work when they want you to work for free. Boy, it's always fucking morally uplifting and empowering to work for other people for free. I tell you what.
There is no work ethic in this country. I hate when people say that we're going to teach them a work ethic. A set of work ethics would imply like an entire system that, has like a whole series of rewards and, things like that. But you can work your ass off and not get a damn thing for it, get treated like garbage.
Why is it that in America we have work ethic, but we don't have pay ethic?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on there?
True.
Yeah.
And the hardest working people get paid the least. Like, if you're working in a coal mine, if you're working in a dishwasher room, like, you're as a dishwasher, like you're working harder than someone who's probably browsing the internet 6 hours a day and maybe producing 2 hours of work.
Yeah, for real.
And I've been told to read bullshit jobs. So I should probably get on that. I'm pretty confident in the fact that I don't read theory, but I know that I should.
Listen, well, Kenzo, how this is another good discussion that we can have, and it's a good transition from just left-wing education. How much theory should we read? How many books should we read? How important are books? And it's actually great because as soon as I said the word books, Rachel Kahn just came and popped in. It was actually really incredible. Hello, Rachel.
I could sense it, actually. Y'all, okay. I'm going to just show up and make it immediately all about me because this is the Rachel show now. I am 30 minutes late because my corset got tangled, which is the most old-timey reason.
You do look like a pirate of the Caribbean.
Look at these things.
Your corset got tangled, and then you fainted, and you didn't faint on your favorite fainting couch. You fainted on the more uncomfortable one. So then when you woke up, your neck was sore.
It was a tribulation, y'all.
And yeah, they didn't have the right smelling salts either.
I actually think it was an issue with her bootstraps.
You know?
No.
I didn't actually check my bootstraps, and perhaps I should have.
Yeah. I slept for 48 hours to get on this podcast. I literally, I was sick the past 2 days. So I slept for 48 hours, almost continuously, chugged like 5 Gatorades.
Whee!
And I'm here now.
Xavier, you are
dedication.
You are used to carrying the entire stream by yourself. I mean, if people watch your stream like it's the Xavier show, here you can just talk for like 1/6 of the time, which is pretty nice. You only have to be at 20% capacity to be here, as long as like you look nice.
Yeah, my hair's a mess. So
yeah, Kenzo, let's talk about books. How important is it for us?
I'd say hey Rachel, by the way, good to see you.
It's good to see you.
As far as I don't think there's a certain quantity. I think what's been most beneficial to me, I read a little theory when I was really young and thought I understood it and didn't. I tried reading Capital when I was a teenager. It didn't get into my head at all. I didn't have a study group, but even at that point, I don't think that would have helped me very much because I didn't have real life experience with looking at political economy and organizing or anything like that. So it was just kind of And then I read Communist Manifesto. I kind of got it. And that kind of fueled a lot of my politics. But then it wasn't until doing the work and actually organizing and seeing how power works in, real life and, really earning a paycheck and knowing what it's like when the bills are bigger than the paycheck. And then going to Marx and now this kind of makes sense. So I would say theory I think it's important. It's good because if you're doing organizing work or strategic work, you want to have a plan and want to have it informed by something. But I don't think that theory really you can internalize it fully, at least in my experience, unless you've done organizing work around it or, tried to do some sort of change out there and okay, so why did this, go wrong? And then, turn to theory at that point.
I am agreeing so hard. I'm just bursting with agreement. You're so right. Because theory doesn't really make sense without praxis. They both require each other. It's a dialectic, y'all. I know I reference Hegel constantly because I'm insufferable. And it's for this reason, right? Because it's never either or. It's always both in situations like this.
Kennedy, give your takes about books.
Well, I think you don't have to read theory to be woke. I think that's where sometimes people get a little confused about the issue of theory is can I be a good leftist? Can I understand my exploitation, all these things without reading theory? And I think the toxic theory bros are the ones who, are if you haven't read Capital, then you don't understand how you're being exploited. And it's well, if someone's worked as a McDonald's manager for 8 years, I think they understand how they're being exploited. Mm-hmm. I don't think they have to read theory to get that. But I think what theory does give you is a broader understanding, can make you feel more hopeful, can make you feel less alone, less your ideas don't make sense. I think reading history is really important in particular, especially history that comes from a non-white, non-colonial type non-straight type lenses, you know, because the history that we're taught in school is not that great for the most part, to say the least. And I think if people understood history more, it would be helpful, because I think a lot of times the greatest issue that people have with politics is a lack of imagination. And that lack of imagination can be solved by reading theory. Because the theory will let you know, hey, here's some things that are possible that you've probably never thought of. Some of these might just be ideas. Some of these have been tried before. Here you go.
I think we should just talk about the word theory. Let's skip the word theory for a second. Because I'm sure that you want to go in a totally opposite direction. Wait.
I bet you I don't. But go ahead.
Just read. Just literally read. Just be well read. Especially if you're having like conversations with human beings, which should be the goal of all of this. Your goal is not necessarily to be the cool, like the mental image that people have of an activist as an extremely intelligent, well-read person with a college doctorate in wokeology, because we think of academia as like the lens through which activism is viewed, because like we could all go into it. Just simply be conversant on topics. Don't be a person that shouts slogans. Like if you're somebody that is passionate about a subject, you should be able to listen to like a 2-hour conversation about it and be able to like process the main arguments against what you're advocating for. Like you should just, instead of should you read theory, should you know what you're talking about?
Yes.
And you should, yes.
Yeah, and that actually goes exactly into what I was saying, right? I think a misconception is that you can only get theory through books. That like the only way you can learn theory is by reading, and that's not how any of this works. Like we're teaching theory all the time on this show. Like just because we don't use the floral language of, you know, a 19th century philosopher to articulate it to you doesn't mean we are not actually telling you about theory.
I just want to say for the record that thinking that theory has to come from books is classist and imperialist in nature, like fundamentally, because you can get your theory through oral storytelling and through like actual like hanging out with organizers and just talking to them.
Yes.
Also, thank you.
That will be in the YouTube when we
the YouTube reel.
So one thing I've been thinking about lately is with the Amazon vote that just happened, and like immediately everyone had these terrible I shouldn't say terrible, but like too soon hot takes about it. And their problem was like we had competing, like I don't even know how to call it, like strains.
So can you characterize those takes? Were they defeatist takes? Were they overly angry?
So like the main like in the left, I think the big narrative is the one that Jane McAlevey put out in The Nation. And what I think, because like some people were like using her critique as a critique of building a socialist movement, and that's not what she was laying out there. What she was laying out there, like, you know, we were just talking about how theory doesn't necessarily have to come from books, even though she wrote a book. Like her theory comes from decades of organizing experience, decades of like building labor bureaucracies, and it sounds like I'm saying that in a negative sense, like, but we do need labor bureaucracies. Like I just want to get that out there. We do need that. But like, you know, so she has her theory about like what makes an effective organizing campaign, and I've worked organizing campaigns. Her analysis I thought was really solid, but it doesn't ask the question, what does this do to build a socialist movement? And that's different theory, and those are different conversations. And what I'm seeing on Twitter, of course, is like people condensing their conversations to, you know, 2 camps basically.
Yeah.
You know, the Jane McAlevey camp, and then there's the kind of more like syndicalist IWW camp. And like, you know, Rachel, you're saying this should be a dialectic. Like, why aren't we having conversations about how do we incorporate both into the movement?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been kind of under my skin for a few days.
I want to talk about that just from the standpoint of like data is important. Like you should be able to look at a campaign and be objective and say like, we have not put the right people in the right place. We have not hit the right, you know, all of that is important. And sometimes there are long shots, and a lot of the people who we support when we talk about electoral politics are people who are long shot like candidates, like Lauren Ashcraft's a long shot candidate. Cori Bush was a long shot candidate last cycle, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes there also needs to be a metric of, is this like worth it in terms of awareness or motivation, and sometimes that's harder to categorize. So Kenzo, before we like throw it around, like, do you feel like this was positive for the movement and people are now interested in how to organize the workplace, or do you feel like there is defeat and now it's taken less seriously? You're muted.
I swear to God, I'm pro at this.
People can see the quality of your camera and they'll be like, wow, there's a little depth here on the shot. There's some good lighting. So Kenzo, you have a lot of pro leeway here.
Appreciate that. You got to do one, either, sound or visuals.
You don't have to. Well,
I've seen people that have been in the game forever that have huge viewerships that have come on our show or been on other shows that I've been on or just that I've watched that make this mistake. The muting thing is just, you can't escape it, folks.
No.
True.
All right, go ahead.
So I kind of just think we need to make plans based upon the conditions we're in right now. And I think so that's kind of why I'm saying there's almost two conversations that should be happening. Like people that are, physically going in and organizing unions, they should be having those conversations, nuts and bolts kind of conversations. But as me in Chicago as a socialist, looking over there, what could we be doing for them? If 30% of those workers, that's still a lot of people who understand that they're members of the working class to a certain extent. How do we, boost that? How do we help them create a movement, if that's what they want, where they are. So I think that we do need sober analysis about what happened, but also this did invigorate a lot of people and got them interested in the labor movement, people that want to continue supporting them. And, we can ask maybe if the workers there want to have a minority union, which is an unpopular or a controversial topic, we should support them in that. Because I think the left is much smaller than we thought about a year ago. And we have to try a lot of new things because
smaller than some people thought a year ago.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody who is actually out organizing, talking to regular people thought we were much bigger than we actually are, because it becomes apparent very quickly how people feel about us. And it's not great, folks.
It's not, well, I wouldn't say it's not great. I'd say it's super positive. Like I said, it's very rare to run into at least here in Atlanta. And obviously nationwide, it's totally a different deal. But it's hard to have conversations in Atlanta that are negative conversations about the stuff that we care about. You can get in any lift and talk about anti-imperialism, yeah. Fuck 12, okay, yeah. It's just there's just a lot of, do people have time to contribute to what you're saying? Do people have energy or money to contribute to what they're saying? And are your solutions constructive with their solutions? Or are they liberal, we're gonna vote and cross our fingers? It's just a matter of motivating people, but I don't think that it's, well, Rachel, I don't know. You tell me, because you're in a different part of Atlanta and dealing with a slightly different group of people.
Oh man.
So yeah, tell me how you feel about what your surroundings are.
So I come from an upper middle class background. And in my experience, upper middle class people are literally the worst humans, all, period. It is all of the worst things humans are capable of all of the time, relentlessly and without abating. Their feelings about socialism range from, aw, sweetie, to overt hostility. Just by talking about things like how we should not pass a bill to make it illegal to sleep in the streets, which we just did in my hometown. I say we, of course, I was vehemently against it. I claimed no part of it, and in fact told all of them I was ashamed of them. But it's this extremely like MSNBC lib kind of culture. And that's if you're lucky. The rest of them are definitely Fox News types. And it often feels like I am like one of 6 people probably in my entire town who even begins to consider these ideas. And it can be exhausting, you know? And that's part of why I like to emphasize things that are more nonpartisan for recruiting reasons. Because if you say like, hey, we're going to go canvass for this person, a lot of people are going to like actively like attack you for it. Not like, you know, physically, but like emotionally, verbally, like later on in the community, there will be repercussions because they will like talk about it with each other. And it's just constant.
Yeah, I have a bit of a question. For like everyone, have you ever heard of the Right to Repair movement?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I think that would be a great thing for leftists to talk about.
Talk about it now.
Because it can be it's basically the ability making it more better and more affordable to repair your own device that you own. Such as you know, Apple has special screws to open their devices. And they don't sell parts to fix their devices. Stuff like that.
So let me talk about right to repair for a second, because right to repair, you don't have to convince rural poor folks of anything. That's who started it. People forget this now, but before it was iPhones, it was tractors. That's where right to repair begins. It begins with tractors. And you know what's interesting about this is this is a classist issue. Once again, we've been mentioning classism a few times today, but this is a particularly classist one where right to repair would be a thing, except that there's a bougie group of Americans who believe themselves above the working class, even though realistically most of them aren't, and that like to just go to the Apple store, hand their phone to somebody, and just be done with it. To an extent,
and money is no object, right? They don't care. They can afford it, right? These are people who can afford whatever. They don't like own yachts necessarily, but as far as daily life is concerned, they can afford whatever without having to think about it.
Right. They make $200,000 a year as a couple or whatever, or more, and they just don't really $200 expense to fix my phone. What's that? Nothing. But if you're poor, that's a big deal. And if you know that you could, buy a $3 screwdriver and a $30 part and fix your phone yourself, that's frustrating. Especially because there have been a lot of poor people that have been able to bring themselves out of poverty, not just now, but historically through repair, like car repair and electronics repair and things like that. That has been a historical route out for people, and right to repair limits that. So I think what's interesting about right to repair is I don't think we have to convince tons of people that it's a great idea, except for the classist and honestly largely liberal like bougie PMC class. They're the ones who don't want right to repair at the end of the day.
Right. Because that's kind of where I started. Down to the left was I was repairing phones. I was doing stuff like that, and I was like, what's this bullshit, where I it's hard to get good quality third-party parts for iPhones. It's hard to know what to fix because there's no blueprint. There's no official documentation. Yeah, there's documentation of what other repair people have made, but not by the actual company.
Well, and it's not strictly, and Kennedy, you were talking about this earlier with the tractors, right? It's not strictly confined to technology, even. I know right now DSA is pushing the PRO Act really, really hard. If you're in Atlanta, you've heard a ton about it from Atlanta DSA already. And there is a weird class of upper middle class liberal freelance writer who's got a column and is a total weirdo and is completely against the PRO Act. And those people in particular are the same people. These are the same people who don't give a shit about right to repair, who really think that the world operates best when everybody is just conveniently happening to serve them. And it's strictly a coincidence that it's so convenient for them.
Yeah. Who's this freelance writer?
Oh, it's Brandyn now.
Yeah. It happens to everybody. Listen, when we come back, Sabrina Salvati is going to be here. So we'll be talking maybe a little bit extra about right to repair, but we'll also just be getting into, the end of the war in Afghanistan and is it truly ending and all that kind of good stuff. It'll be a good time. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. See you in like 60 seconds. Hey everybody, what's up? We're back. Everything's happening. Sabrina, how are you? What's going on? This is like your first time on the show, but we're like big admirers of you and your work, and we thought it would be good to have you pop in. How's it going?
Hey, it's going great. Thanks so much for having me.
For people who don't already know who you are and what your deal is, can you introduce yourself like you're brand new to these people's worlds?
Sure. So I'm Sabrina Salvati. Some people call me Sabby Sabs, and that's the name of my show. And I interview candidates, activists, and entrepreneurs, all leftists, of course, that are making a change in their community or nationally, fighting for social and political justice. And I live in the Boston area with my husband.
And people who aren't following you, you're Sabby Sabs 2 on Twitter. And I forget your YouTube URL, but your YouTube URL is right there in the thing. So if they follow you, you go there. How have you been doing like in the last 2 months, I would say? We've just been asking everybody, like, what have you been doing in terms of your personal energy, your organizing, just your life since the Biden administration started? STEMI season. Just how's your STEMI season been?
Oh my gosh. The past 2 months have been hard because in Massachusetts, like we didn't fully reopen like a lot of other places. At the same time, they're telling us at work that, you know, we need to get vaccinated. And so some people have started to not really follow the COVID guidelines like we were before. And so I work at a university, and now our numbers are going back up in reference to COVID cases. But at the same time, we're expected to be back in the fall on campus. So I've been working from home since last March. It's a little scary. I don't feel like much has really improved since Biden has taken office. And in fact, I feel like some things have become significantly worse. At this point, I received more stimulus money from Trump than I did from Biden.
Let's really talk about it. Listen, you and Circa both are going through education COVID nightmares, and y'all are both Army brats. So Sabrina, can you talk about your background with we talked about all of this beforehand. we just talked about like family and family relationships and how they interact with politics. So can you talk a little bit about how your family relationships have influenced and been influenced by your politics?
Yeah, so I think I was very lucky because my mom, I was able to convince her to vote for Bernie, like in the primary. So I was like, "Go, Mom!" My dad has never really cared for either party, to be honest with you, and he's former military, retired military, but he never felt like either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party really cared about people. So for him, he's just like, he feels like he votes because more so it's his civic duty, but not because he thinks that anything's going to change because of it. So I think I've been lucky in that aspect. I've been able to try to like convince my parents like to go this route. Friends, not so much. It's very hard because even here in Massachusetts, I think a lot of people see it as this progressive state. That's typically the Boston area. Once you get away from Boston, it's not like that. And there are like Trump, counties here. And a lot of the people that I've met that are blue per se, they're Biden blue. So that's why like Massachusetts went to Biden instead of Bernie.
Yeah, I hear you. Massachusetts, what was going on with Warren? Why did the Warren campaign not take? Was it just poor organization, or is she just in trouble with her constituents? What happened?
I'm gonna tell you a little secret. We don't really like her.
Listen, like y'all almost what's going on with the Massachusetts Democratic Party? I feel like this is I have a long-term relationship that was based in Massachusetts, and maybe
Before we get fully into that, can I just say really quick? I feel like every bluish state has Democrats, and that they get by on a national image.
Oh yeah,
but nobody at home likes them that much. Or is that
our mayor's like that?
No, man, you're in Chicago. That's a total horror story.
Well, our mayor, the horror stories that she's putting us through, she was on a panel at the DNC this summer with George Floyd's family talking about, Black Lives Matter and about, police brutality, when she hid footage of the police raiding the wrong house recently, and was caught now trying to hide this footage because she's trying to reform her image. And now defending, basically defending a 13-year-old being murdered by police. Like she is considered extremely progressive for some reason in national Democratic circles on MSNBC, but no one likes her here.
It doesn't surprise me at all. Sabrina, can you talk about just the Massachusetts Democratic Party and why do they nominate such weird, unlikable people? What is their problem? What's their deal?
Well, Warren really won a lot of people over when she was standing up for Occupy Wall Street. That's pretty much how she got in. A lot of people were in favor of that. But the guy that she ran against last time, I don't even remember his name. He was forgettable. He was just terrible. So she was going to win again. In reference to like the Democratic Party in Massachusetts, the problem here that we have is there's a lot of wealth here. So it's really hard for people like Bernie. It's hard for him to break through. Even though I think he definitely should have won Massachusetts, it's really hard because we have a lot of tech companies here. We have a lot of people work in healthcare, and we have a lot of startups here. And those people don't want to give their money to someone else. So they'll say they're progressive, but they're not progressive to the point where they feel like they want their money to go towards like universal healthcare.
Listen, Bernie, he's a nice old man. I like him. But forget about him. Biden's the president right now. Circa, how satisfied
Wait, are you talking about Bernie Madoff?
Yeah, well, that guy, rest in peace, Bernie. That's the one Bernie, he's gone and we'll probably survive. We'll be okay. The human race will probably continue without Bernie Madoff.
I think so.
Just evolution will just continue, just life goes on. But let's talk about that was so funny. What were we talking about? Circa, I was throwing it to you. What's happening?
Something about Bernie being a nice old man.
Biden's here now, and I guess anybody can chime in on this. We've got Biden. They're the president now. Do you feel like, in terms of his foreign policy, we're talking about an Afghanistan withdrawal at the end of this year? How do we feel about? Obviously, the deadline's been pushed back again, and that should probably be the headline. Do we think that this is the last time they're going to do that? Do we have any hope? What do we think about Biden and foreign policy, I guess?
Well, I think it would not be appropriate to just send the awful war on terror out into the world until it was a full 21 years old. So it's going to be one more year.
Circa, do you dare to hope?
I desperately want this to just be the end, but
you're the person on the team that's read the Afghanistan papers.
Yes, twice. But,
and wrote an in-depth report on them. You are like a person that is taken a deep interest in our awful imperialist policies here.
He's I mean, you'll know I'm not a fan of Joe Biden and his foreign policy from, I think, the moment he stepped foot on the political scene. But he on this image that he's trying to make himself look like he was against all of that, which they had these bullshit. I don't trust this. I want it to be the end, but given how long this has gone on and how much money is being made off the war on terror, especially in Afghanistan, it's either not going to end anytime soon, or it's only winding down because they have intentions elsewhere in the world.
Yeah, listen,
it's just,
you're a little bit, Circa, you're a little bit choppy, so I want to pass the microphone around, but I do think that we got your overall point. And by the way, this is as optimistic as I've heard you talk about Joe Biden. By your standards, this is a sunny take, that there could potentially be some sort of light at the end of the tunnel. Xavier or Sabrina, do y'all have just thoughts on our long occupation?
I mean, I do. I mean, this happened before I was even born, so what am I supposed to say except we've been there for too long, and I mean, I really don't have any hope for the Biden administration. I really don't. I think, there's too much profit involved for getting resources, and not only that, but for companies like Blackwater, to continue to profit, mercenary companies off of this affair.
I think that it really doesn't matter to what degree you trust Biden or the Biden administration, because our job is just to agitate. So, your headline shouldn't be like, do you trust Biden or not? Your headline, if you're having conversation, should be, the deadline was pushed back again. This was a Trump-era deadline, and Biden pushed it back by another such and such a time. So and you also have the advantage of, if this is your approach, you get to sound smart no matter what happens. You don't have to take a leap of faith. You can just take the situation at its word and say, hey, you have a president who in the first 3 months pushed the Afghanistan deadline back. So so even if September, things improve, we can say it got pushed back. And if he pushes it back again, you say, hey, look, didn't I talk to you about this all year? Anti-war organizing doesn't, we were fortunate last year, I think, in the wake of the Soleimani incidents, that the anti-war movement had to give itself like a sudden cold start last year. So everybody like warmed up their contacts and stuff. And, you know, personally, as somebody who, you know, did like go to some of those events, and Xavier, I know you were at some stuff, like I was encouraged by like how many people like were able and ready and willing to go out there. It's good that is something that should always be existing, and that anti-imperialism should always be a part of our conversations and our messaging, no matter what the prevailing political situation is here in the heart of empire, and whether Joe Biden's deadline is in May or September. We should still be having like the same conversations with people who, you know, just have human decency.
Well, and no, I think there is no example more powerful than they cannot make you kill for them, right? I think if there's a single point where you can leverage the vast majority of people to actually refuse the demands of the state, whatever those may be, I think killing people is as close as you're going to get, right?
Well, Sabrina, what do you think?
I don't believe anything that Joe Biden says at this point.
True.
He's already lied multiple times. So it's one of those things, like, I just don't believe it.
All right. Listen, Kenzo, any last thoughts? Circa, what do y'all got?
I also just don't trust Joe Biden on anything. I mean, I think that's the reason why he was the chosen successor at this point. He showed his fealty to the Democratic Party for 50 years now. He will do anything they ask him to. So yeah, we have to like, I think, you know, this is kind of my approach to politics lately have been not to put too fine a point on things. So I'm like not getting into debates about with people about, you know, a direction here or a direction there, because like we were talking about earlier, how small the left is. You know, frankly, like we can unite behind projects, but there's no reason for us to be like carving up turf and like, you know, spitting at each other. And
No.
I'm already starting to see some of this stuff on Twitter around this DSA convention coming up. And my thoughts on that is I am a paper member of the DSA for 2 months during the time of the convention. I was convention delegate twice. So I'm like, this is my off year. Whatever comes out of this convention, whatever resolutions come out of it, whatever people run the NPC, I will support them. But I'm not going to get into that toxic stew that's upon us.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. Brandyn and I have been ourselves trying to decide if we're going to run for delegates. And I mean, I remember 2019. If you were there, then you remember me standing in front of a microphone telling them, and I quote, "I have a disorder where my bones fall out of their joints. No, we cannot keep going until 10 o'clock at night because we spent the entire first day arguing about the fucking agenda." It was a nightmare.
I had just joined when all that stuff was happening, and I went because I wanted catering, like it's union catering. So yeah, I'll go to something if it's union.
That food was amazing.
It was great.
I can't believe these Chicago. Bring this camera in on me right now. Chicago and Kenzo, you happen to be here, so I want you to pass the word along to your city. Shame on y'all. You think you can just put together a resolution and we're going to hold every convention in lame Chicago?
Well, first of all, I'm not against that, but I also am not putting my name on that resolution.
The dusty gray Chicago to be the center of the DSA brand, as opposed to Atlanta, a much cooler city than Chicago.
True.
Las Vegas, an infinitely cooler city than Chicago.
Vegas would make the most sense, actually.
And actually, like, in a place where we need to be growing and building. Chicago, have some shame. Step aside for Las Vegas, which should be the place. And listen, if Vegas, you know, doesn't want the business, Atlanta, you know, you've had some union catering. You can come down here. We'll do it. But these are the clear Chicago. Like you're having a once in a 2 year event that's a social event for everybody that's cool in your organization. You're sending the most popular members of your organization to Chicago? Are you serious? Everybody's gonna come back and they're gonna have, Chicago wind in their hair, dust in their jackets. They're gonna want to quit DSA. They're gonna want to stop organizing. You want to take them, if you're doing something once every 2 years, it's a reward. You want new members to want to be there. I can't go and talk to black people and hey, listen, once every couple of years, we're sitting.
You know they have some cousins in Chicago.
We're sending our most popular members.
All right.
Chicago.
God damn it.
Okay.
Not Vegas.
We gotta
Vegas. Not Vegas during the summer league where you can see the new NBA prospects and hang out with them. Chicago.
We gotta pass this to Kenzo for a defense, I think.
There's no defense.
Chicago is one of the greatest cities in the world, but I don't think the DSA convention should always be here. I
love y'all.
We need to move it around. Like I agree. That's why I'm not putting my name. Even though some of my close friends are putting their names on that resolution, I'm not.
I understand centralization or whatever, but my philosophy is always centralization has limits. And that's too common turn. That's way too bureaucratic to hold your national convention in Chicago. It was a central location.
It
Like
would
we
be
got
like,
a
it would be
spreadsheet.
like holding your most important national event in Iowa. Like,
Yes, like it was geographically centrally located to the infrastructure board in our power center. Hold it in Vegas or Atlanta. What are you talking about? And I guess maybe New Orleans, but like New Orleans, I'm not helping y'all with anything.
Hey, Brandyn.
I don't know what it is. What?
Hey, Brandyn.
What?
Are you starting to have a problem with centralized, bueurocratized authorities?
Listen.
Are you turning a slightly little tiny bit?
I love centralized. I'm just saying, like, have casual Friday.
Brandyn, can I talk to you over here for a second, Brandyn? Come here. Brandyn, come here. Come over here. Get over here. Okay, thank you, Brandyn. I fucking told you so.
Yeah. Listen.
Brandon's an anarchist confirmed.
National Convention in Chicago. Vote. I'm not going to talk about all this.
We're going to tune into this. And then they're gonna post clips of this. They're gonna be like, "See, we told you DSA was ineffective."
No, because here's the thing: is at the end of the day, Brandyn and I are still DSA.
Yeah.
We didn't give up on it yet, so
They're more DSA than I am.
Listen.
I wish I could.
I am constantly like fielding people from DSA to connect them with the projects they want to do, like constantly.
Yeah, listen, do DSA. If you don't know anything about organize, like literally join DSA, and you will find a group of people that you exactly want to put up with, like within 30 days. It might be DSA, it might be something, but like it's a very good clearinghouse for whatever your tendency or world is or whatever. It's the large multi-tendency socialist organization. I don't know what to say.
It's the one. We don't get to
one.
choose where history happens. We just get to decide what we want to do with it.
Before we open the floor for new topics, I want to plug something. So speaking of like the work, DARK, which is our defund APD group. When people talk about defund, they talk about internet nerds, internet theory, academia.
To be fair,
they read Mariam Kaba. What?
To be fair, we're not that.
They're not that. But DARK the entire year has just been holding canvases like in the real world and building mailing lists and holding conversations and tuning their conversations and being in like small meetings of communities and talking about defund. And they're doing Canvas, which is in Adamsville, which is as West Atlanta as you can get in West Atlanta, like any more West Atlanta, and you leave Atlanta. And me as a dude from Bankhead, I always love it when the team is in Adamsville. So if you're looking for something social to do, they're probably gonna like it'll be like a normal event. Have you ever canvassed before? It's normal stuff. And we're just gonna be talking about the APD's priorities this year, and that's the friendliest audience you can possibly have, because like I said, in Atlanta, especially West Atlanta, going from door to door and going fuck cops is like being the ice cream man. Rogelio is running for city council, and I say this all the time. Was it hard being a socialist candidate for city council of Atlanta? No, it's super easy. You talk about how like it fucking sucks to be poor and your boss robs you and rips you off, and how the cops give you a hard time, and gentrification, and how you can't afford to live in the places that you lived 15 years ago, and it's like you're a hero. Go to West Atlanta because they like literally just want to talk about these things. And socialists.
I mean, if you're running for anything as a socialist, I think you are a hero.
That's right. Woof woof. I guess. Really, listen. You don't have to damn run for anything, but it's nice. It's good. I don't care about politics in the sense that like I don't. That's like being I treat that exactly like being a garbage collector, except maybe slightly worse, in the sense that like if the garbage collector doesn't get your garbage on time, like, hey, they were probably going through, like, there's probably a lot of garbage down the street. Whereas like a politician, like, just get the garbage on time, man. Just vote for common sense things that are humanitarian. And if you're not doing that, then I'm going to yell at you. So whoever can do that so that I don't have to worry about it is good with me. But just you're on the left, which means they're usually not, because they're getting paid to do dumb stuff that doesn't make sense.
I mean, can't relate. My representative is Marjorie Taylor Greene. So.
Oh, by the way, big boom. We got to talk about Sabrina. You're in Massachusetts where you have like your own goofy lib problems, but we are really in backcountry down here. Xavier, can you talk about the rise of Marjorie Taylor Greene for people who don't know?
Okay, so Marjorie Taylor Greene is a batshit crazy candidate in Georgia's 14th district. And she's actually crazy. Like, she actually talked about QAnon during her stuff. And she actually, like, wrote for this pro-America, like, news site that was also, like, conspiracy theory stuff. She cheated on her husband, which is, you know, not good. But not the main thing that she's done. She's talked about she's literally talked about Jewish space lasers and crazy shit like that.
How did she win a congressional seat?
I mean, people just wanted to defeat the libs.
Listen, wait. I have to ask Kenzo and Rachel, how did she find out about the laser? I thought we had that locked down.
Rachel,
listen,
don't have some sort of authoritative.
Oh yeah, she is also a CrossFit mom.
Listen, I was really drunk, and Abigail Shapiro was feeling real frisky.
Yeah,
and God help me, but I did pillow talk it. It was me. I'm sorry. I thought I could feel her away.
I thought
I could make her mine.
I thought you were in the pirate division, not the astronaut division.
Whee!
I thought that there were pirate Jews and then space Jews, and then the two don't like cross over.
Nice.
Okay.
So it's like, wait, how are we dividing? Are we dividing by tribes, or is
I
it like an
was
Ashkenazim thing? Or?
I just think it's like a name. There's like sea Jews, and then land Jews, and then space.
We're not Pokemon.
It's like Avatar. And I thought just space was your element. Okay, you're getting around. I love it.
Cannot believe Brandyn said he hates the Jews live on Not Safe For Wonks.
Yeah, listen, Kenzo, between this and Chicago, I'm just stepping on everything today. Kennedy, talk.
What? I just feel like Kenzo's gonna be like, "Wait, you invited me on here just to give me a hard time, Brandyn?"
I thought that's friends. What streaming was. You just go on and people give you a hard time. I got no problem with it.
Next.
Oh, absolutely.
Talking about hair, I'm gonna be like, listen. You know, once your hair starts thinning, it's over for you. Like, just the takes. Sabrina.
You know, we haven't had an episode where somebody physically fought Brandon yet, so
It's
I say strike a fucking well, let's do
We
it.
have. I feel like not yet. I
Not
feel
yet.
like
After COVID's over.
after COVID,
Yeah.
that's right. This has been like, listen, I feel like this is the case for a lot of people. In pro wrestling, you can just be as much of a jerk as you want to because like they can't touch you or whatever. You're like a manager. And I just feel like there's a lot of people on the internet who just forgot that they could be touched in real life. Some of these people on Twitter, they've just been so.
Are you calling people out now?
I don't know. Listen,
Brandon.
lockdown's over. Lockdown's over, everybody.
Brandon, if you're gonna do this, you better start naming names. Who you gonna fight? Who's gonna be? Will you fight Vosh?
Oh,
Check.
Yeah.
check
Sure.
the chat.
I bet we could talk him into it.
Yeah.
I
Like,
bet we could
listen,
talk Vosh into boxing you, like on camera.
Okay. Here's the
Honestly,
problem.
I would watch. I mean,
Here's
I
the
think I'd bet
problem.
on Bosch, honestly.
First of all, Bosch has done like obliterating Bosch does great numbers for us, and we can do it whenever we want. The problem is like clout chasing and then bullying Bosch, especially because Bosch is now wary of us because Bosch has was spanked earlier. So now like it would be a
Wait, what we
ramped up-
do to Bosch?
No, we had a whole week where we were beefing with Bosch and just suplexing Bosch. But listen, the whole point of this is it has to be a campaign. And because I am already running a campaign mobilizing people of color in Atlanta, and I'm doing a campaign on prison justice, and we come in here and like getting guests, the cool people of left Twitter, all to be on a show, that's like a campaign that we do every week. You don't get savvy sabs just by just sending a DM and saying, do you want to be on our show? There's like
Wait.
a real, but
Do you mean to tell the people that podcasting is an actual job
I mean, it's
where you
work.
have to do
Say it.
actually do work?
I don't
Don't
know
say
if
it,
it's,
we're the bourgeoisie.
I don't know if it's a job, but it's work. Like
Good point.
all of us are it's funny that this is happening because all of us are people who are both activists and creators. So what is your work process? Like how much does it take to make what y'all make? And Sabrina, you and Xavier are both of interest to me because you do like processes that like I'm super clued into Kenzo's process and not yours. So like what is the process of making a YouTube video like for you?
It's a lot of work. I know at least for me with interviews, I have to reach out to people. I usually reach out to a couple of people each week. Then you have to wait and see if they respond. I use email campaign and I found that to be very effective because then you're able to see if they at least open your email.
Yeah.
Because otherwise without that, you're doing this blind. And with candidates, it's even harder because they're not the ones that actually open the emails. It's their comm team. And then you have to hope that the comm team gives that to them and ask them if they want to do it. So it's like a 2-step process with that. But that in itself takes a lot of time. And then got to make sure that I find a time that both of us are available. Sometimes people may be running late. So I never do interviews back to back because of that reason. And then there's the editing part. And I think a lot of you know, like the editing takes a long time, just making sure that everything fits together. And then when I'm advertising it or promoting it, I have to use different clips for different platforms because I can only do like a 2-minute, 20-second video on Twitter, Instagram. If I want to put it in the feed, I can only be 1 minute. LinkedIn, I can go up to 10 minutes. Facebook, in Facebook story, I can only do 1 minute. So you have to like have different clips for all of those platforms. And then you have to adjust like the pixels.
And at
So,
different
it's a lot.
resolutions and shit. Like it's
Yep.
a big thing.
Yep.
Xavier, you have a Twitch channel and you are like, we've been talking about moving to Twitch or doing more Twitch stuff. can you talk a little bit about, and this can just be for people who are watching this, like how do you put together a Twitch show? Especially because you're selling your services. So Xavier, like you'll make a Twitch clip of this or whatever, and think of this as like your 5-minute sales pitch. What is it? What kind of work does it take to make a show like your show?
It takes a lot of work to put together something that works for you. Even now, my shit's still fucked up because my camera's crap. But it took me a while to even get my green screen to work as well as it does right now. And it takes a lot of work to make sure that chat is up and working, to make sure that all of your logos and transitions are the best they can be. Like I can, even now, like I still have stuff that sometimes doesn't work. Like I made instant replay work. I've done like sound clips that people can play on stream via the rewards part of streaming. I've done, all sorts of stuff like that. It's really cool and interesting to do.
Does it look markedly better than this? Because we just like pay a service and we just set up the webcam and we just let it go.
Yes.
But no, your show does look like, if people follow your stream, like it is very flexible. It looks really good, and like the chat brings. I mean, people have seen Twitch, like our audiences. By the way, Rachel, you have this thing in our bumper talking about buying for organizers, and really, I feel like the show is for just Zoomers who are just or just people with ADHD.
It was actually a typo. It was supposed to be BI and for organizers.
God damn it, Kennedy. No, you know why I put that in there actually is because all the time from lots of different organizers I hear like, oh, y'all are my favorite one.
We are your favorite podcast.
Yeah, like I get that pretty often from organizers. So I actually do think we're for organizers, and I think it comes across, and I think that organizers appreciate that about us.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you got to be what you are, and that is kind of what we are.
You write what you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while we're talking about that, I do want to talk about my situation just a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's talk about, because we haven't done that at all today.
Yeah. So if you don't know, like my current situation, I'm gonna be kicked out in July. So that's coming up really soon, and that's like really stressful for me. And that's why I'm so worried about getting a job or getting something or like making enough money to where I can like sustain myself for like a couple months while I figure stuff out. And even so, like, I don't want to live with my mom, even if I did follow her rules of going straight into college. Like, I don't want to live with someone that's gonna put that much like over my life. That is, not cool, and it's not okay for me. So we're looking into different ways of making sure that it's possible for me to survive.
Yeah. Listen, part of like I love and one of the things that we should talk about just is there are so many platforms that are just available, and it's just like you just have to volunteer to take up space and talk. And you have just been, since I've met you, and this sounds like a weird insult, this sounds like a compliment, but you are somebody who's always been willing to take up space, which is a good thing, because sometimes like people want to do it but don't want to talk about it or be seen doing it. I know that seems weird, but like I think anybody that's done organizing and like you do like real stuff, there are just lots of people who don't want to be seen doing anything. And
Yeah,
you
yeah.
are always comfortable in your own. You are somebody who has fought to be comfortable in their own skin, and you just always have been since I've met you.
Well, yeah. I mean, it took a little while. I came out in 7th grade, so that's definitely a big part of that. Would not
took you a
recommend,
little
by the
while.
way.
I'm freaking 31. Took me forever to come out.
What? No.
Yeah.
God, I wish I'd come out in 7th grade. But I'm not trying to diminish your struggle. I just think it's wonderful sometimes that these things have progressed. Honestly.
Yeah. I remember being out in high school and it was like a huge deal that I was out in high school. Like at all, like just huge deal. And I mean, I think that's awesome, right? I think that means that we have actually been making headway on these issues. And I think, it is really great that, like, even though we do still have really far to go, there are immediate, tangible ways I can see how things have improved, right? Because then I can honestly tell that now that I'm becoming an old, right? I can honestly tell the younger generations, like, hey, listen, it does get better. It takes a really long time. And I know right now it feels like it's not moving at all, but actually it happens faster than you think. And it is happening.
Xavier, this sounds funny on a show that is founded by a Zoomer, April. But you are unofficial Zoomer correspondent.
Yes.
Can you talk just a little bit about just how optimistic do you think people are about politics just in your age bracket?
I would say probably a little bit more optimistic than Gen Xers.
That's a good way to think about it.
Because we're new. When it comes to climate change, we see the impact the most, and and we know that it's the fault of ExxonMobil, and it's the fault of so many other giant megacorps, and we're a little less optimistic about that. But when it comes to social change and worker organizing, I'd say we're a little more optimistic.
Well, listen,
I think y'all are more optimistic than our generation, the millennials. Maybe not by like a huge margin, but a lot of the people that I hang out with are just like, I can't wait for climate change to strike me down. And I'm like, okay, I guess that's a life philosophy.
Sabrina, what is maybe, I don't know, first of all, I think it takes optimism to do leftism. I don't know if you can, like, I joke about Rachel being a doomer all the time. I don't think you can be an actual doomer and be a leftist, because it's just, I think if you're an actual doomer, the politically effective thing is to just be a liberal. Like if you've really given up, then just like be in the K-Hive. Like if you've just given up on the future and you're just here to ride things out, I think that you at least in some point, I don't know, even if you don't know how things are going to go, you feel like it at least deserves your time and your attention and your care. I don't know, but Sabrina, how do you feel about like optimism? How optimistic is your, maybe not your age bracket, but your community?
So also as a millennial, I do hear a lot of doom and gloom, but I think a lot of it's more in reference to relying on politicians or counting on politicians to fix things for us. And I think a lot of us have kind of just decided that if we're gonna fix things, we're gonna have to mobilize and do it ourselves. We can't we can't rely on the next big politician to tell us more lies and to get into office and not do anything. So we realized that we have to like come together. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot of on Twitter right now. Although there is a lot of leftist infighting like on Twitter as well. But I think that that's where a lot of that anger is coming from, because you have like one side that's like, no, we should like fight for the squad and elect more people like them, and then we'll get change. And then you have another side that's like, no, we've tried this over and over again. We're tired of waiting. We're just going to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
I think we're always going to have, I think it's always going to be good to have direct action and mutual aid.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the best ways that we can do certain things. And, I'm not going to knock elected representatives either.
Yeah. Listen. All that direct action, mutual aid. I want to talk about Prince Philip. I want to have fun. Like, let's decompress a little bit from this is theory, and we'll just talk about like just some of the stuff that's happening just in the world and on planet Earth. Before we do that, I do want to mention, hey, it's Ramadan. I've been hanging out with Yara freaking all week, and she's just trying to like get freaking food money for Ramadan. And since there's such a positive exchange rate in the United States to like stuff that's going on in Gaza, like $10 literally like covers her for like a lot of the week. So I wanted to just quickly give her like a nice plug. And if you've got Cash App, just send it to the Stress Fund. And she'll super appreciate it. And she's done a lot for us in terms of like posting our stuff on Reddit and just being a nice community person. So, cool. Hey, listen, when we come back, we're going to talk about Prince Philip. He's dead, and we're all so sad. Here are all of our sad faces. We're weeping, and hopefully we can compose ourselves by showtime. We'll be back. Let's go. I've got the blues. I've got the dose to blues. Do. Amy is out. Typically, our producer Amy runs our comms and zooms us in when it's demanded for, and just generally puts up with substandard working conditions for no reason, which is really the number one thing you need to be like a member of the backstage team here. But Amy is recovering from the vaccine and couldn't be here. But we wanted to give Amy a shout out, and hopefully Amy gets well, gets better soon. And Kenzo, listen, you were our favorite guest of all of the guests we've had named Kenzo. You were number one.
About to say.
There is not another Kenzo that is holding a candle to you. So as the number one Kenzo on this show and the defending Kenzo champion, what's going on in your world that people can tune into?
Oh, well, it's a constant fight. I'm a high school teacher in Chicago, and next week, this week we were supposed to go back to in-person teaching, and the problem is that we're quickly approaching in Chicago the threshold where we have an agreement with the Board of Education that once cases hit a certain threshold, if there's another spike, that we would go back to distance. And the elementary schools went back to in-person a few weeks ago, and that was a big fight. We almost went on strike over that, but we got a decent agreement. as far as like giving exceptions to some teachers who can't work in person because either they have an illness or they're taking care of someone at home. And it was shaky. Like a lot of people who should have gotten those kind of agreements didn't. But we were able to expand the definition of people who are able to. So it was basically the type of agreement that, we had the gun of coronavirus at our heads to sign. And now the Board of Education and our mayor, the mayor controls the entire Board of Education in Chicago structurally. They are insisting that all high schools go back. And, part of our agreement was not that we would go back 100% on a certain date. It was if certain conditions allowed us to, and that would be like the cases are going down, teachers being vaccinated, and there was no program at all to get teachers vaccinated in the first place, and there's no requirement for teachers to be vaccinated. So there's a lot of chaos still going on, and today was the first day of a work action where all high school teachers, we decided that we were going to work from home today, even though we were directed to work. This doesn't make any sense. They wanted us to work from our schools, but via computer, via Zoom, to our students at their homes as a way, I guess, of like pushing us back into the buildings before school started. So that's my child there, who's also doing the distance learning thing.
This is a pro-parent podcast, as you
know. So yeah, that's where we're at right now, and it's a bit of a standoff. So I'm not exactly sure the numbers, how many people participated in the work action today, but there was strong support for it. It's ridiculous. Like the Board of Education wanted high school teachers to go back fourth quarter to essentially work for 19 days in person, and so we're basically saying, we need to halt this in-person program if it means 19 fewer days in person. So be it. We're in a crisis now.
Listen, this is super intense and it's super intensely interesting. Sabrina, I want to talk to you about what you have got going on in your future. Like, how can people keep up with what you are and what you're doing and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I am on YouTube. I'm also on Spotify, and my goal is, I've been kind of slow with this. I created a Twitch account. I just haven't streamed anything yet. So that's on me, but look forward to that coming soon. And hopefully I'm trying to get on Rockfin. It's another thing I've kind of put off. I need to fill out the application. I'm just bad with this stuff.
Listen, honestly, like, and you can definitely continue, but like, if people want to follow you, all they have to do is keep tuning into us, because you'll be, I think, a regular face as much as we can get you on, because like, we have so many people who come in from blue states, like, and we're like, at least me and Rachel and Xavier, we're all red state people, and we always love it when we have people from blue states to come in and just be like, it's not shit up here. You think you elect some fucking Democrats and all your shit's gonna be saved? Like, come look at what Massachusetts is like.
Counterpoint?
Yeah.
Counterpoint.
Yeah.
The teachers in Massachusetts can go on strike.
That's a very good point.
The teachers in Georgia will lose their accreditation and never be able to teach again in the state of Georgia if they go on strike. If they even talk about it, if they even encourage each other to go on strike,
which, by the way,
they will lose their teaching credentials forever.
This is something that
their pensions.
The right people in Atlanta, and let's say East Atlanta, let's say Far East Atlanta, let's say OTP Atlanta, even. There are people who should be interested in changing those policies, so that there's not that kind of mess anymore. Sabrina, continue. What else do we need to do in order to just be in the mix with you? Rockfin, on everything now.
Definitely follow me on Twitter because I tweet a lot. So that's the place where you can really look for me, like, on a daily basis.
Sabrina and Kenzo, and Sabrina is SabbySabs2 on Twitter, and Kenzo, thank y'all both for being here. You're just super, and we just want you to be back just as regulars, just because we love it.
Excellent.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks y'all for having us on. This is great.
Hell yeah. Bye-bye, y'all.
Peace out.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, Xavier, are you going to stick around with us for a little bit?
Well, now that the
Yeah.
serious people are gone, before the next set of serious people probably show up, because hopefully we're going to have our good friend of the show, Alan Max Axelrod, and somebody else from the No Shutoffs campaign
Yeah.
from maybe a different town, because that campaign has been getting big and it's spreading throughout their state, are going to stop by to talk about the No Amarin Shutoffs campaign, how that's grown into a much larger thing, and talk about some of the victories they've had recently and some of the things that they still hope to accomplish. And this is cool because we did an interview with Alan a few weeks ago, and even since then, there's been actually quite a few updates. So hopefully that'll be about like 30 minutes from now. We'll see them and we'll talk to them to help close out the show with some really positive activism talk. Before we get to that, though, while we're between sets of serious guests, let's talk about some dumb Twitter shit.
I love it. All right, so is Prince Philip not our dumb Twitter shit? What's the dumb Twitter shit that we want to...
I mean, that's a good start. We could also talk about Grimes' new tattoo.
Grimes has a new tattoo.
Oh my
I'm not
God.
up to date on this.
Kennedy, pull up the Grimes.
Okay, hold on. I'm pulling up the Grimes tattoo.
I'm gonna keep...
Please be advised, this is some rich people doing dumb stuff hours. So,
Oh God.
just be prepared.
We need, and while we wait on that, we need to set up, I've been talking about this, and I'm just going to openly talk about it. We need to set up a monthly Bonnaroo type event that's a private event that you've got to pay a few bucks to get into.
Yeah.
That is like, because we are not like, I do not like doing every 15 minutes. Hello, thank you for liking our content. If you're watching us on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up. Please like, please subscribe, please hit the bell. Thank you for joining us on Twitter. Like, all that's cool. But like...
Oh, I only show myself every hour.
That's true.
All right,
just as an artist, I want to mess with this format. Kennedy.
let's do this. But yeah, I agree. And also, hopefully we can find... Part of the reason we want to try to raise some money for the show is because we want to go on tour. We'll talk more about that in like maybe an episode or two.
COVID season is closing, and like, I don't know if you guys want to watch video streams of people inside. I don't know. That's all I'm saying.
I want to go outside and hug Brandyn.
Yeah, that's right. We gotta get out here giving hugs as soon as possible.
All right, let's look at this, okay? I'm sorry in advance for how dumb this
Zoom
is.
this in. What is this?
So, this was a partially hand-drawn, partially computer-generated white ink tattoo.
I need a hard zoom in on that. I need
It's
like
supposed to look
400.
like quote-unquote alien scars.
I need zoom and enhance. Oh, okay. I see what's going on here. And she got an entire back. Well, here's the thing. So, when you have enough money, no mistake is irreversible. So, like, in a few years, maybe she'll, like, you know, whatever.
Laser it off.
I don't know. But this is not the way right now. No. Who's into that? The guy from Red Dragon, maybe. Aside from that, who's...
I mean, honestly, I don't even care. Like, it's her body. She can fuck it up if she
of
wants
course.
to.
Like, on the level of...
Oh,
like,
of course, yeah.
I feel like the argument of body autonomy is now the last...
And will it look kind of cool under a black light eventually when it's healed, which I'm sure is like probably the main intention? Yes, maybe.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
what's so mind-boggling about this is they just kept on Twitter, the tattoo artist, and then on Instagram, Grimes herself kept talking about this partially hand-drawn, partially computer-generated thing. Like it was the coolest thing ever. And it's some scribbles.
Yeah.
And it's just the
Do y'all remember that screensaver with the ribbon?
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh my god!
This is not like a life or death thing, like a, whatever. It's just thumbs up or thumbs down on this artist's weird art thing. So I am just giving this a no for me, dog. It's a no for me, dog.
It just bothers me because this is like the typical like rich people ruining art kind of shit, where like she has like the world's greatest tattoo budget and could get like a back piece that would just be like mind-bogglingly, like dazzlingly well done. And
That's
instead,
true.
Like she
she's
could get like body implants and like she could actually fucking surgically create realistic angel wings on her back.
Yeah,
with how much
why
money
not?
she has.
Why
Yeah,
not?
here's
This is
the thing.
this is
No,
what
no,
she
no.
wants.
This is not a good faith conversation, because if Grimes got like a $4 million back tattoo as a flex, even if it was really artistic or whatever, y'all be like, we need to redistribute her tattoo.
Listen, I'm giving Lil Uzi Vert a pass for the forehead diamond. I'm not all unforgiving.
Okay.
I
Got
just
Uzi
think
walking around like the Vision.
it's really, again, it's not the fact that she got it done. It's not the fact that she likes the tattoo.
Right.
It's the fact that they keep bragging about this tattoo as this artistic achievement.
Right.
I can't deal with the nonsense of rich people sometimes. This is like some taping toilet paper to the wall and calling it $1 million piece of art types, or a banana. Isn't that the one that just sold for $1 million? A banana taped to a wall?
Yes.
Actually, I think someone like straight up ate it off the wall. Didn't that it happened?
Oh yeah, that's Praxis.
Rachel, we were planning to get you in there to eat that banana.
I would have.
Of course. we all got together. It was like Ocean's 11. We got to the floor plan. But by the time we got there, someone had eaten the original banana and replaced it with a replica banana. And we are thieves, and we are hungry thieves, and we are hungry thieves with honor and dignity. And Rachel just got offended. She's like, listen, I am not going to eat a replica banana.
True.
I'm only going to eat the original. So we just packed the plan up, we hit a board, and we just went home. But we could have eaten the banana if we wanted to.
Hey,
Okay,
speaking
but
of Praxis, let's bring
how do you
on
know
a
it's
few
the
friends of the
right-
show.
Yeah.
Wait.
And you know
Wait,
what, Alan? I think, Alan, you might want to get in on this. How do you know which banana is the right banana? How can you, like, tag a banana so that everyone knows it is unique and solely owned by one person?
Ada Powers, it's great to have you on. Ada, they're the host of Sex Radio. It's great to just have them on the show. Ada, how you doing?
Hello.
Doing all right. Ish. Yeah. Ish.
Alan, Max,
I thought I'd reached the bottom.
Yeah.
I thought I'd reached the bottom of my like pandemic energy well. Then I realized I don't even have energy to associate into phone games anymore. Like that was mental health for me. And now that has slipped away. So I'm here. I'm good. Hi, sorry. Alan, hello.
Alan, Max Axelrod, just one of our favorite people in the game. Just somebody who's done just courageous work in Illinois. We were just literally yelling about DSA wants to hold every convention in Chicago, and we were just revolted by the idea. That's not a
You
place.
say we.
Yeah,
Brandyn.
you are just revolted by Chicago.
I just don't think that Chicago is a place that you send people as a reward.
Brandyn
Like,
really
This is personal.
really wants our chapter to pay for him to go to Vegas.
Well, I just think if you listen.
Okay, wait.
You can go live in Vegas if you want.
I'm just
The
cutting
rent's pretty
Brandyn
cheap
off.
there.
Alan, is Chicago somewhere you send someone as a reward?
Alan.
No comment.
There we go. Alan,
I live 2.5 hours south of there, so you have to have a real good reason to want to go up to Chicago.
Listen, I'm not letting you get away with this. You have to express an opinion.
No.
I'm bullying you. Bullying. I'm bullying you.
They can
bullying
get
you until you give us an actual
Alan
answer.
out there. We don't
Cyberbullying. I'm cyberbullying.
Are you talking about like a DSA event in Chicago?
Yeah, DSA wants that. Yeah, DSA is talking about, they do conventions every other year.
Yeah.
And so there's a resolution that is instead of, and I mean, it is like, to be fair, like the actual other side of this argument is, it is a little bit of a bureaucratic hassle to go find a different hotel every couple of years. Everybody has to raise money to send people there. You got to research how much everything costs. It costs more if you're in one part of the country. Like, there is a logical argument. Want to do everything in Illinois. But I just feel like from a stylistic standpoint, why are you holding your convention in Chicago?
Well, so one thing that I'll definitely say is that national organizations tend to prioritize larger cities, but if you look at smaller communities, there's no shortage of abandoned or derelict or nearly defunct hotels and convention centers that you could get really good deals on, and the hotels are going to be a lot cheaper. So,
wait, are you saying that Atlanta's not that big?
Atlanta's perfect size for, listen, we had the convention and it was perfectly successful. Listen, the problems were on the floor. They weren't with the host city. Everybody who came had a great time.
Listen, Alan's got a great point, though. You know, big cities, national orgs, you know, that bring in millions of dollars a year will still be struggling to like get a decent hotel and stuff. You know, in the big city, you could go rent out an entire small town in like Arkansas or rural Iowa, just the whole thing. You could just walk around town all day. Just walk into the ice cream parlor. We own this for a week. Whatever. Give us ice cream.
And on top of that, you look at the fact that a lot of these large towns or large cities are chosen because of the airports. But when you talk about to socialists and they're saying that we like trains, you can get to a lot of cities via the train. So there's actually a lot more options than I think.
Perhaps formerly named Terminus because of how many trains came here. Atlanta.
Yeah, listen, we literally, like, I'm trying to pretend to be neutral. Like, it doesn't matter.
Well,
like,
I mean, listen, I like Atlanta.
I'm happy to advocate for Vegas just for political neutrality, because it is a city that's a fun place that you want to send people to. But Atlanta is obviously like a better choice if we had to have a permanent place somewhere. But I also just think regional rotation is also a fine system.
Listen, I'm just going to say it in regards to the train talk earlier. If you take a plane instead of a train to a socialist organization meeting, you are not a socialist.
No,
you are a scab.
Kennedy. And this is part of my personal evolution. You can be a socialist and also arrive to places on time, okay?
No.
True.
These trains are gonna show up like a day and a half late, and you're gonna be like, well, it was a union train runner that got my train there a day late, so it's good. Then you're already going to a DSA meeting, so you know that's gonna run long. You gotta respect your time at some point. Just take an airplane. It's gonna be fine.
But experiencing the failures of capitalism on your way to a socialist convention.
So let me tell you, also always appreciating the business of people willing to fly the friendly skies. Alan.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying that experiencing the failures of capitalism on your way to a socialist convention is also incredibly meta.
True. Alan, let's talk about you. You are an Illinois resident, and you've done a lot of activism. We were talking about the Illinois Democratic Party, funnily enough, with Kenzo before you got here. Can you talk a little bit about your personal experiences with the Illinois Democratic Party and the problems that you had?
That's the short version is yes, definitely can. My state's Democratic Party is bought by the utility industry. They have even sent to all the presidential delegates, of which I was one, for Bernie Sanders. They had sent to all the presidential delegates a box that was literally branded by one of the major utility corporations in the state, as well as the realtor lobby. But more locally, my county Democratic Party chair, who's also my state rep, literally went to the January Democratic Party meeting and in her chair report insinuated that there was some leftist perpetrating a QAnon conspiracy theory when 3 days earlier I had sent her an email about minor but impactful professional misconduct of several different officials within their ranks. We ended up getting that published in the paper, and then our revolution left the No Amarin Shutoffs campaign, and we replaced them with 3 additional organizations that are not so close to the Democratic Party. So, yeah, it's been very interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, listen,
Let's take a step back for all the people out here who might be watching and don't know what is No Amarin Shutoffs. Let's take it to the very beginning, because not everybody's heard our previous recording with you, etc.
That's fair. No Amarin Shutoffs is a $0 all-volunteer grassroots campaign spanning the state of Illinois, north and south, east and west, of 51 member organizations and counting. We have won 4 utility shutoff moratoria in the state of Illinois. Our moratoria has our last moratorium has just lapsed, and utility shutoffs have resumed today in the state of Illinois when our COVID cases are higher than they were last time our COVID spike started. We are on the verge of surpassing Texas in new daily coronavirus cases in Illinois. And we've had over 2,000 cases a day for over 2 weeks now. But yeah, the short version is that's the No Amarin Shutoffs campaign. We are in the process of passing resolutions in multiple cities. We just passed one in Urbana unanimously Monday, and it just got published to their city website today.
Oh, yeah.
And that one in particular calls on the governor to enact a 30-day mandatory moratorium on utility disconnections for non-payment. And then they added this second sentence to it, which is just like a nail in this coffin, so to speak. The moratorium should be without means testing. And the reason for that sentence, without means testing, I mean, many leftists will say no duh, but we actually had one moratorium in the past that was means tested, and it resulted in over tens of thousands of households being shut off by utility corporations a month. And when we removed the means testing part, it went down to single digits.
I mean, yeah, they'll means test the shit out of it for sure. That is how they get around everything.
Yeah, but also like normal kinds of means testing has collapsed during the pandemic, at least in Illinois. For example, LIHEAP, which will be a very interesting discussion for some other reasons, Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program. In fiscal year 2019, which was basically fall of 2019 to spring of 2020, we had 236,000 households receive LIHEAP. Fiscal year 2020, which is still ongoing, the latest number was 160,000, over 160,000 as the number of people during an economic collapse and pandemic who have received LIHEAP. So despite the fact that our government increased the amount of funds available for it, despite the fact that our government actually had specific outreach efforts, and despite the fact that our government increased the application window a whole 2 months for this benefit, 70,000 plus households fewer have received that benefit than the previous year. So if there's anything to tell you that means testing is not okay or effective during a pandemic, there you go. That's empirical fact.
Well, and I mean, means testing is and always has been an escape hatch, right? What they do is they can't not pass a bill that at least sounds good in like the headlines, right? And no one really has the time. None of the people who would be the most outraged by this really have the time to go dig through their laws and figure out like exactly how they're getting screwed, right? And so they just sort of rely on the broad ignorance of the public and nickel and diming people until the system is broken. And then they point to the system and say, look, the system is broken. Why do you want to keep giving money to this thing that's broken?
Well, and it's an interesting thing that you talk about that, because, you know, we don't have, LIHEAP is just a heat and electricity subsidy. Mm-hmm. And when we look at the fact that we have not had a federal water subsidy program until literally this year, they are starting one. It's called LIWAP. And yes, the last 3 letters of that acronym is WAP. That program is basically a reflection of how broken our utility industry is, because you didn't used to need water assistance to get by. These are literally escalating means-tested programs to mask our failures, as you were saying. Because if you look at even the LIHEAP numbers for your state, you will find that sometimes between 25% and 33% of the households in your state that are eligible for that benefit are actually getting it. So like the government's admitting that they have a failure rate of over 2/3 for this existing program, and things are so bad now they're creating a whole new program, and it's going to be means tested.
Yeah.
And so when I talk about building community independence, when I talk about like liberatory organizing, and when I talk about the material barriers to organizing, I'm talking about this, right? I am talking about the number of people who do not have the foundation of their needs met, who, as a direct consequence of that, are not able to do anything with their time that is not work, just for basic necessities, right? When people who are sick or have kids are working, the equivalent of 3 jobs, right? That is why and how, that is how they hold them in that position, right? Is, well, if you don't do it, you can't eat. Or if you don't do it, we're going to turn your lights off, and it's, these things are one and the same, right? And so to me, what I have sort of landed on, and I'm curious to hear what you think about this, is maybe we should just start growing our own food. Maybe we should start just making local, sustainable gardens and just do it. Maybe we should start organizing our own childcare and just stop trying to beg these people to save us when they're doing everything in their power not to.
What I'm hearing is mutual aid.
Yes.
So first off, hell yeah. The Really, Really Free Market is a project of Bloomington activists, including the Bloomington Normal DSA. And what they literally do is they will go to low-income communities and just give them food in grocery bags and everything like that. In Champaign-Urbana, we've got a large number of community gardens that people can get fresh vegetables from. But a lot of people don't know that it's there. And so there has to be some sort of even old school information distribution so that people can know about these different things and also tell you if they want something different. So in the process of mobilizing, we had just voted for it, the creation of a lit drop group whose job is to basically be a socialist newspaper without a hefty article. We're literally dropping 1 article a week or a month, depending on the time scale they choose, on people's doorsteps. And this is like, where can you find food? Where can you get social service subsidies that you might not know about? For example, in Illinois, we have a township system for social service that doesn't exist in other states. And so a lot of people who move here and then struggle don't know about it at all.
Right.
But yeah, like having members with offices in their homes then have conditions for offering that up as solidarity housing and codifying that, making coalition agreements with other leftist organizations to do that is one of the ways to fundamentally fight capitalism. I'm also in the process of talking to some other DSA members in the state about what would it look like for us to create a credit union that provides loans for people to afford the down payment for homes. Because that's one of the biggest barriers to keeping people locked into high cost rentals. And so because like Champaign-Urbana, your real estate taxes are higher than they should be due to broken Illinois law, but it's still $3,000 a year for your real estate taxes. How much do you pay a year for rent? So there are these kinds of things that we can do to walk back the oppressive nature of capitalism. And one of the biggest ones that I don't think people are talking about that is a threat to power is by providing for free certifiable training for the high wage professional jobs in your own city government to cause a negative pressure on those PMC jobs, so that we have working class people managing working class union workers, as opposed to having 6 and 7 sometimes figure municipal officials literally overseeing a collapsing city. There is a 6-figure city manager in the city of Decatur, Illinois, and that city has been shrinking for decades. It used to be larger than Champaign, and it is smaller now. So, and there are elected officials who are complete jerks because they know that rank and file activist is not going to get, say, the certifications needed to become a property assessor. And so what if we actually just had those classes for free in our communities as well, giving people access to these jobs that exist in every city of the country, and that you can then create a negative down pressure on it so that it reflects more the median wage than in Urbana. The township officials voted themselves to get a pay increase during the pandemic.
I want to talk a little bit more about means testing, because earlier in the program, we were kind of talking a little bit about sort of the way a lot of people don't necessarily have like a completely coherent politic, and that like people can be kind of paradoxical. We were talking earlier about how a lot of times if you just kind of like walk into a room of like poor and working class folks and you're like, fuck the cops, everyone will be like, yeah, fuck the cops. But then if you ask them, what do we do about the cops? Then they'll start saying lib shit.
Yeah.
So like,
right.
I think that like this, when we talk about means testing, this is really important because this is how we create some of those kinds of people. And I think online on Twitter, we tend to take for granted, even, I'm not just talking about leftists, I'm talking about everybody who's on political Twitter. We tend to take for granted that the idea that most people come to a sort of, or try to have a relatively coherent set of political views, but actually most people don't give a shit if their political views are coherent. And it's only like people that are really obsessed with politics that want to like sort of make sure that like, I have a set of beliefs that starts with fundamental beliefs and then it builds from there and everything is consistent. That's
because
not
we've had
normal.
to prove it.
That's not normal people behavior. That's just something we do. And means testing. So when you means test stuff, this is how you create people like this that have these wildly inconsistent viewpoints. And I want to draw attention to this because I feel like a lot of people probably know somebody, a friend or a family member, that if you talk to them about certain things that you would think they're a leftist, but then you talk to them about other things, you think they're a Republican. Like a dyed in the wool, I'm about to vote for Trump Republican, you know? And that's means testing is a huge part of this because that's part of how you end up with these paradoxical views of, yeah, I believe in helping people, but I won't sign on for money in this library bill because I'm not sure it'll help me, because too many times I've signed on for money in bills, my taxes go up and no help comes.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's like the big, like one of the big things that we have to overcome with campaigns like this, because when that no help comes, then people lose hope in these political processes at all.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's where we are. I think that's where we are right now. I think the vast majority of people at this point have little to no faith in the government's ability to provide for our basic needs, including the things that it is like constitutionally supposed to be doing, like infrastructure projects. And really the only thing that the government consistently provides is bombs and tanks and weapons to our soldiers.
And Saudi Arabia?
And to our police, you know, and as they say, fascism is when imperialism comes home. That's why we're here, y'all. Like, these things, they're systems, you know?
Well, and the means testing allows them to shrink the budget year after year because they'll say not enough people were actually using the benefit or program. And then they'll use the increase in crime to legitimize the increased spending for the police, which is literally what's happening in Champaign-Urbana right now. There has been, we're a small community. So when there's a shooting, there's a big deal. That's a big deal, and it's happening. So we happened to get to defund the police alderpersons elected onto a council of 7 with a third strong ally on there. And we're in the process of talking about having stipend programs and built into tutoring systems in the schools. But yeah, like the contradictions that you'll see in means testing isn't just from the people who are means tested, it's from the people who draft the rules. In Urbana, in Champaign County as a whole, we have a rental assistance program where in order to qualify for it, you have to earn over twice the cost of your rent. And the rationale there is that you don't want somebody to get this assistance who's going to need it again immediately. But then on top of that, they have a 2-year prohibition. So if you've gotten that assistance, you can't get it again for 2 years. So what's that really saying, right? It's saying we only want to help the people who are earning twice as much as their rent. Right. And we don't want those folks to even become moochers while still championing, while the politicians here are still championing the fact that they are helping people in need. So it's pretty
there's
absurd.
Always going to be that talking shit about welfare queens.
Well, yeah, but it's just like that double. Oh, that's fine. That double dip of saying, well, we're going to have this income threshold because we don't want them to use it all the time, and then having this time threshold on top of that literally prevents them from using it all the time. It's something that has to go.
Yeah. And I like the way you talked about too, just the way programs just sort of get eroded every year through these kinds of little things. It makes me think about a couple of years ago, I was trying to get assistance from the state to get help with a landlord who was trying to keep my deposit. And it was a very unfair situation. I literally moved into a dirty apartment and left it much cleaner than I found it. He didn't want to give me the deposit back. So, I'm trying to get some help from the state because I'm like, okay, well, there's a state program that that helps with tenants' rights issues. It took them so long to call me that by the time they did, I had organized with some of his other still current tenants that I knew and gotten them to put pressure on him and gotten my deposit back. And so the person who called me seemed really nice, but it was like 2 months too late. And like, that's just like the perfect example of like, these programs just get eroded and eroded and eroded and eroded to the point where they're not useful. And so would I call that program again, recommend them? Probably not. Because, when you're trying to deal with a landlord, you need help now, not months later. And so even like this is, I'm just giving this example because even in my own mind, I'm not immune to this kind of thinking of like, would I fund that program again? I'm not sure, but I should realistically, I should just check the yes and give this some more fucking money. But there's a part of me in my mind that's like, well, but that program sucks now because of that experience. And that's how they trick you.
Yeah. Well, it's counterintuitive, right? Because we have this very punishment-oriented culture. And so we all sort of anticipate anytime something is not working, we need to punish it until it does better, right? And that includes defunding it, right? When in reality, what actually we should be doing, what works best, not just in terms of logistics, but in terms of actual outcomes and human behavior generally, is nurturing and encouraging growth, right? And feeding things. Things will get as good as we give them the resources to be, because people are incredible and creative and will do whatever you give them to do. And if you give them a number that they have to game, they're just going to game the number. And You know, we can't keep locking these programs down with, you know, punishment and retribution.
Honestly, one of the things that we should be doing is, as I think you're saying, is removing the means testing to where the number of applicants obviously exceeds the capacity, so that we have the mandate by the demand of our community to increase the supports that are provided. And that's actually a canvassing effort that we're going to be doing here. Is well, in addition to the fact that we're currently distributing a bunch of lit to call one office to literally, you know, break some bureaucrats, the other thing that we're going to do is a lot of hospitals have what's called a charity care program. This is where a nonprofit hospital that is obviously dodging taxes and may even be starving your local municipality of real estate taxes, in exchange offers free health care to people below sometimes 300% of the federal poverty line, which is solid working class. And so what we intend to do is sign so many people up for that program that they freeze the applications, but in turn we also have helped thousands of our community members, because most of the people who access this kind of thing are the employees at those hospitals that they aren't paying enough. It's not actually a large section of the community. They offer the program and they go, look at how good, you know, we are in the community. But imagine that press release from the activist side of saying, we have exposed the fact that the need in our community is much greater than some non-for-profit's capacity. We need this to be a government right. We need Medicare for all, right? That's a trajectory for it too. So whether that is having pre-meetings with vulnerable residents to literally help them check all the boxes for the means testing and then to send them so that it is effectively not means tested anymore because they have all the paperwork already ready to go. And that means unfair labor for the activists. But what this does in turn is it then gets these offices to react to that. And they'll either react supportively or they'll expose themselves to the neoliberals that they are. And once they've done that, you can then get them out of office.
I would actually push back on the idea that it's unfair labor. I think that is the labor of activism, actually. Going out and talking to people is activism. That's what the job is. Like, if you call yourself an activist, this is what you signed up for.
Oh, yeah. Like, I completely take your point. I meant to say it from the perspective of I grew up believing that we were in a meritocracy, and I feel completely ripped off. I wanted to just be working on robotic educational gaming demonstrations to teach kids how to, like, have a lot of fun with some technically advanced material.
Right.
But once
yes, I too had dreams before capitalism crushed
I think
them.
a lot of us here relate to that kind of feeling that you're expressing, which is one of those ironies when people think that you sort of wanted to get into politics, like it's a good grift and you just wanted to get in or something. Like no. I've had way better ideas that would have made me happier and probably made me more money, and I do this because I have to.
Yeah, I also just wanna add, like, clout shit. First of all, just the idea of, like, this is a business. This business, like, I often say this to us just as a group. If we were to just print out a Wikipedia article, like, right here on the side and read it and tell jokes, we would make way more money than doing this. We could just hit random on Wikipedia and tell jokes for an hour and a half, and we'd make way more money. So,
but we made a choice, you know?
Right. And also, when we talk about clout chasing, I don't know if we're clout chasers, because all of us could just be way better at chasing clout. Like,
actually,
all of us,
what it is, we're in clout acquisition, Brandyn.
Yeah, like, we have clout. Like, we do things that people pay attention to, and we talk about it, which is good because
I don't.
Well, yes. Well, here's the thing, and it's funny that you are the person that's here. Basically, there are people who are doing work that is as tireless or more tired, like, that are doing the work but just it's harder for them to get attention to it. So like, because like most people have like jobs. Like, I don't know if everybody, like, there's just the material fact of what you're doing, whatever your activism is, has to fit into your life. And so just because of that, different people have different modes of activism. Like, Rachel, we talk about this all the time, like how many parents are at DSA events. Like, it's just an environment where that kind of organizing, it's not like parents don't organize. They do. They're just organizing in ways that are molded to their lifestyle and schedule. Like, I mean, for like a funny example, like a PTA meeting, that's an organization that's marketed around teachers and parents. So they have lots of teachers and parents because that's how the organization is formed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How you organize is just as important as like what you're organizing on.
On the subject of how you organize, I wanna ask Alan. Alan, you have a real like made from scratch organization with no Amarin Shutoffs. There was no box mix, no thousands of dollars, somebody waiting around to just jumpstart this effort. I'm curious from your perspective, first of all, just give everybody a little bit of insight into, especially because now, even since we last talked to you, this has really grown. And so give people a little insight into that, like, how do you get from 0 to 60 like that? And also, while you're doing that, maybe you can weigh in a little bit on this clout and sort of like how does the online stuff, you know, when does it matter and when is it bullshit with this kind of organizing too?
Also, you're an interesting person because you are not like, you're not really like you are on Twitter a lot because of your activism, but you are not like telling jokes on the side or anything like that.
I used to. But yeah, so I guess how No Amarin Shutoffs started was, you know, we didn't come out of completely nowhere, but a lot of the original member organizations that said yes as soon as I just started emailing every organization out there were in coalition with us for a congressional campaign for a former underage survival sex worker who at the time went by Stephanie Smith, now known as Frank Smith. And so with her campaign, we actually formed the nucleus of No Amarin Shutoffs by just reaching out to the same leadership and saying, we have an emergency to respond to here. And then from there, the bandwagoning effect to some extent came in to play. I call it the flashpoint activism, when the spectacle of principled struggle actually draws allies in and exposes people who never intended to do what was right when it came to their own political comfort.
Alan, can you slow down and explain that concept? Because I think you hit something, like you hit a really deep vein. So can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, and I'll actually go all the way back to pre-activism. I used to do robotic educational gaming demonstrations. And one of the things that I observed when doing that was, yes, kids would play the games that we had set up, but the parents would stay and watch. And parents without kids would stay and watch. And it was because of this spectacle taking up space that, if you then think about it in a cynical marketing sense, creates an elongated impression, which then increases their likelihood of actually wanting to participate or know more. And so when you translate a similar dynamic to an activism space, if you are able to create a substantive and principled spectacle for your struggle, that's where the comms labor really is super important. Then you can draw in activists and allies while also creating pressure for other actors to expose themselves. And this manifested, both dynamics manifested during the No Amarin Shutoffs campaign. In particular, with a lot of our Twitter pushes, we gained media contacts, including, you know, talking to you all, but also we got Twitter allies who have no interest in the media aspect, but are just empathetic with the struggle, who are just sharing the material when it's out and trying to refer us to people all the time because they understand what's going on. They can see what's going on. They can see that a lot of other people know what's going on, and they want to help. It's something that they see some hope in. And the flip side of that dynamic, when we actually had even an at the time member organization's leadership threaten me over one of our spectacle communications, we had done a double press release in collaboration with United Left. And we had done so through our member organization called Central Illinois News. They voted to change their name to Downstate Illinois News. They haven't made that change yet. But that video has about 1 minute and 49 seconds of the governor's hypocrisy on full display when it comes to utility shutoffs issues, with his own words, with a preponderance of the evidence, and with physical actions, direct actions being done in not just one, not just two, not just three, not just four, but 5 different counties in that 1 minute and 49 second video. Including one situation where a teenager in high school led the police on a wild goose chase while we snuck somebody into the governor's press conference in Peoria, right? So not all that information was there, but well, that video goes out, and then a state board member of our Illinois Revolution starts to intimidate me on a call where she thinks that it's just me and her, when it was actually me, her, and a witness who has no reserves about stating what he had seen, where she was basically saying, like, you know, they're really powerful people, and just trying to ramp up anxiety into getting me to withdraw the video or something. I told her to bring it on, and then 4 days later, Ameren, Illinois folded and stopped utility shutoffs entirely in the fall. And that lasted all the way until March. So again, flashpoint actions are where you show in no uncertain terms the stakes that are present in your struggle, and you are loud about that. It has those two effects. It allows you to clean your ranks a little bit. We didn't kick them out at that point, by the way. We actually just were like
self-deported, as a certain Governor Romney. Yeah.
Yes. I want to add on to that because you're talking about getting people mad, and that is certainly one way to create a spectacle, but you can create spectacles lots of ways. You can clown, and actually, Brandon, I think you and I were talking about this behind the scenes kind of recently about how, like, really I consider my Twitter to be clowning. Like, it is a specific type of comedy that is clown shit specifically.
Yeah.
And I think
your Twitter is like, I mean, it's very funny because, like, somebody who watches you on video, like, you're like super high IQ, and your Twitter is like fart Waluigi LOL. And like, yeah, so it's how do I put this? There is a character that is a consistent character that people like for Twitter. Like, people like when you are consistently something. I have a pretty big Twitter following, I guess. It would be bigger if I was like consistently doing a bit.
Yeah.
You know what I
feel
mean?
like I have that problem. I'm not consistent. Like, I'll post some like really good takes about why the police are bad, and then I'll like post like SpongeBob peeing or something.
Yeah.
You know, something just dumb and awful and terrible. And people are just kind of like, I don't know if I should keep following you. And I'm like, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I feel like I have that kind of Twitter feed. My Twitter is more like a personal curation than but
well, even taking Twitter out of it altogether, right? Like, I wanted to shout out a couple cool things that I've seen down here, just because I want people, when they think about these things, to have, you know, a plethora of examples to choose from. I know our eco-socialist group, I think in conjunction with our revolution, did like a wedding at the zoo a couple of years ago, and had like a whole big weird thing where they were like in mascot suits, and it was hilarious and weird and very attention-getting, you know, in an unexpected place. I got a team of people together and put up a guillotine one time, which is like, you know,
Ada reactivating.
Coming back for the guillotine. Listen,
guillotine was said, and it was like,
And I mean, I've seen like just ridiculous things work, you know, directly. People want the spectacle. People want to feel like there's some kind of directed push and like they can be emotionally invested in this. And it doesn't need to be boring. It shouldn't be boring, right? Like we're building cool shit together. Exactly. You have to make it cool.
People know, like, you know, I don't know if the same kinds of action, the same kind of flashpoint things would work on the same group and the same culture times later. Like, I think people get desensitized, and it's another shitty thing about our consumerist culture. It's like, cool, how are you engaging me now? How are you busking with your activism to make me want to join this?
Yeah. But I mean, it's also like organic stuff. Like, if y'all remember the band Eve 6, they came back as leftists.
Oh, do I?
Yeah. The Heart Blender guys came back, and now they're leftists. And it's like everybody is delighted by this weird thing because they're constantly making fun of themselves for their old music and also openly talking about anti-capitalism and shining light into some of the ugliest shit about the bourgeoisie because they were with them.
And honestly, if you're Eve 6, and nothing's going to change what your income is, you're going to play your 2 songs no matter what. It will back to back with like Vertical Horizon.
Those residual checks are coming as long as bars still exist.
Yeah, like don't do anything like super illegal, and your life's going to be pretty stable no matter what. So you might as well just be free, be yourself. You did Promise, and you've got like $200 per month. And you know, you talk a big anti-capitalist game, but that's going to Postmates. Like, let's be honest. Like, where are your royalties from Promise? Those Spotify.
Nothing is stronger than a creator who is peaked but still has something of a platform. Nothing to lose. What are you gonna do?
God, you're so right.
Nothing to lose. Once you.
I mean, or you can be dumb like me and like do it before you've even peaked.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
just get right in there early.
You haven't peaked yet, Xavier.
Again, some of what we do is clown shit.
Yeah. But listen, I don't want us to talk about freaking community organize. Like, listen, we are cool people and we can make a cool podcast about community organizing. But why would you? You don't have to. We've got summer's coming. We're all going outside probably. What do you guys want to do when you're like fully vaccinated and able to spend time with your?
Just go touch some grass.
Just go. You can go touch grass now. Just keep your.
Go touch some ass.
It's not the same. That's COVID grass. I'm not touching that. Okay.
If you have to touch grass with a mask on, are you really touching grass?
Kennedy, what are you going to be? I mean, listen, you're in nature. Kind of.
It's beautiful here. Yeah, I go hiking a lot.
Yeah.
I want to go to food festivals. Do y'all remember those?
Yes.
Y'all remember grubbily touching samples next to a stranger who's also grubbily touching them and just feeling like this is okay.
Yeah.
Because I want to
literally
feel
did
like
that Monday.
again, actually.
I miss those, yeah.
My
I miss
mom-
festivals at all. Like not like the bougie music festival kinds, but like
food
like art
festivals.
festivals that like pop up, those kinds.
My
Real
mom
ones.
made me go to an art festival, or my mom didn't make me go to an art festival, but she invited me to. And that was this week. I wanted to appease her because, I mean, you know, my relationship with my mom. So I went. You know what happened? I got sick. Here I am.
Xavier, well, first of all...
Wait, I have to get in one more thing. This is important. This is for my brand. I'm also going to see Beach House at my first opportunity.
Let's talk about it. Xavier, first of all, I still think that it's good that you're trying to do all of that outreach and full BS. Like, it's aggravating. But, like, just part of our mission in life is to try to see the humanity in other people, even when they're a pain in our ass. And it's wonderful that you just keep trying to be the bigger person. And that's awesome. What's part of your plans for getting outside?
I don't know. I really don't like. I don't get out much.
You've got to integrate that with this, because you could come and do this, and it could still like be on your Twitch stream or whatever. And also, this is so much easy. Like, you could do long. You can do this as a long stream. And does this technically count as time for your stream, or is this just nothing for the Xavier Zeta business?
I don't know. Like, I really don't. Like, I've had bigger viewership than you have, but y'all probably have bigger podcast ship than
you are
I do.
bigger than us on Twitch. I mean, you've been consistently streaming. You've got a good audience.
Also, we have the most sporadic viewership.
Yes,
I talk to these other shows, and they're like, "Yeah, we get like X number of viewers every single week," and I'm like, "It's like that."
Yeah, Ada, you look very sophisticated right now. You just look like you're going right to the coffee shop as soon as this is over.
I mean, that would be nice. I gotta work remotely every day, so changing scenery is pretty important. I have been keeping a spreadsheet, tracking all of our pals in the group chat, our little local Atlanta queer community, tracking our vaccination shots and doing a bunch of formulas so I can tell exactly when, like, all right, we're all vaccinated now. It's been a couple weeks. We can all start to hang out. So mid-May, gonna go, like, I don't know, just be with friends.
Ada, before I go and talk to Alan, in like 2 minutes, is there anything unique that like COVID and the Atlanta like queer community that's happened? Are there any cultural phenomenons or anything that we missed? I guess Rachel would have if there were any niche pop sensation.
Yeah, I guess I'm.
I mean, like the sex dungeon closed down.
Tell me about the sex dungeon.
I'm not gonna like name it, but there is in Atlanta a sex dungeon.
Oh, you mean I thought there was a place. Like I thought there was a place called the Sex Dungeon.
No, it's what it is.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
no, I know.
People do these things. The kink community is very up in arms about the fact that this thing closed down. Which I mean, like, of course it did. You can't do that right now.
Of course. Rest in peace to the Sex Dungeon. And on that note, Alan, what are you doing when you're going out?
I probably would just invite people over to watch movies and play board games and stuff. As far as like traveling goes, I guess I'd go to Chicago.
Let's get out of here. Not Safe For Wonks,
God damn it. Wait, no, don't.
What?
Because it's my birthday.
Yeah, you're right. Listen.
It's going to be... No, it's going to be my birthday. We're talking about like what we're going to do when everybody's vaccinated. And my birthday is the sex number.
That's right.
My birthday is 6/9. And I am throwing the People's Rager. And I am inviting fucking everybody who is vaccinated. You do have to be vaccinated.
We're gonna figure it out. But you will have you watch.
Damn it, man.
The dress
there will
code
be
is
karaoke.
The dress code is just you show up naked with your vaccine card just taped.
Yeah.
Well, and so to be clear, I am a summer baby, and I'm having a fucking pool party. Because you know what I want to do more than anything? Swim in a fucking pool, y'all. God, I missed it.
We're gonna be doing.
Rachel, your birthday is right before mine.
Oh yeah, what's your birthday?
June 10th.
Oh shit! Like literally.
We've all got to come. We'll find a way to come together.
How old are you?
I'm 17.
Baby hours.
You will literally be turning 18. At midnight. I'm trying to decide if you can come to my razor, but you're a baby. You're a baby.
We're trying to get you a job. We're trying to show that you can be good and that you can behave. So you will be doing homework during the People's Rager. You will be just, doing the people's bullshit job. Xavier, thank you for coming on. Plug your Twitch.
It's fine. I can DJ, okay?
Of course. Plug your Twitch.
Oh, my Twitch. Okay. So every day, twitch.tv/Xavier Zeta. Every day.
Every day.
Just about. Except for the past 2 days, I've been sick.
It's like this. It's exactly like this show, except without Kennedy, without Rachel, without me, without Ada, without Alan, and without Circa.
And with gaming.
Right. you have a big Steam collection. I was hugely into it.
Playing games good.
That's
Gamers
right.
bad.
All right, everybody.
Gamers bad.
Let's get out of here. Gamers bad.
Gamers bad.
That's got to be the memory for the road. We'll see
Look,
y'all later.
I will live and die on this hill. I have beaten multiple From Software games. I know what games are. I play them. And being a gamer is a bad thing to be. Don't do it, kids. Okay, bye.
And while we're talking about gamers bad, follow us on Twitch. We're moving to Twitch, twitch.tv/notsafemedia. Bye.
Making friends before you go.
Twitch.